Everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another recording of Hearthstone. Why are my headphones not as loud as they usually are? I just cleaned off my microphone stand, which had a couple of years of dust on it, so I must have bumped the dial. Using a goo system that was on clearance on sale during the Amazon Prime Day, on quote-unquote sale. This goo is basically just slime that you could make yourself. Sticky type slime that I think probably is just almost glue and borax. It worked fine, but it's very disposable, because the fact that it is sticky means you can't really clean it. So it's good for maybe one, maybe two uses. It didn't really work getting into the nooks and crannies of my keyboard, but it got the top parts of my keyboard looking nice. And it had a slight oiliness to it that I imagine wouldn't be a problem, but something to consider also. Generally, I have an air compressor, and if I ever get around to using it, I can use an air compressor to do general dusting. But these electronic things I wanted to try something different, and I'd say once every 10 years maybe. If you can have a device that works every 10 or 5 years even, that's about the right time to use that type of cleaner. A paper towel and a lot more effort would have probably done a better job, frankly. Just a slightly damp paper towel folded so it could reach into the deep ridges of a keyboard. Well, we have some news that was left over from Wednesday. I think, have done all the Tavern Brawl things that we need to worry about, and I'm not particularly going to... If they're going to give us these Tavern Brawls that are based on solo adventures, I'm not going to particularly finish those going forward. I don't think I'll just potentially concede them. Where I'm in a position where I kind of want to rush, as usual. Like, there is not a day in which I don't want to rush through things. Win a game with Druid and Hunter, and do the Great Heist thing. Alright, so we need to do the Great Heist, the Delarian Heist. And that means we still haven't gotten this part done. So we'll do anomaly mode. Both players start with gems. With the start the game with two more. I can barely read this even on my main screen. Cards and mana crystals. Okay. Two more cards and mana crystals. And we'll take Hunter. And we'll try this. And see how this works. +2 attack. 1/1 shifting chameleon to your hand. Let's take that. And let's see. Go with the mech solution because the mech solution works sometimes rather well. So yeah, we have a large amount of leftover news, and I kind of want to finish early on this Friday. I don't want to go extremely long. There's not much to talk about. I've seen through YouTube, one of the YouTube unofficial announcements, YouTube channels, that they plan on getting rid of the old YouTube Video Manager by the end of 2019, which is way too premature, particularly considering how features are just straight up missing in the YouTube beta. Everybody is getting defaulted into the YouTube beta at this point. So it's So I spent a little bit of time looking at and trying to see how I could program a new macro in the YouTube Beta Studio to schedule videos instead of actually scheduling Hearthstone videos, which is what I needed to do. So I spent most of yesterday doing that instead of actually scheduling videos, so I didn't play any games. Although I am working my way around, I've kind of figured out what I want to do for the I kind of have figured out what I want to do for the month of November, so I just need to kind of start playing random games I got for free and see if I can fill a time slot that way. Starting in November, I plan on scheduling everything to air at the 30-minute mark instead of the 45-minute mark into an hour. Is that really going to change much? Probably not. But it's something I'll be experimenting with for lack of anything better to do. And is there anything else to talk about? Not really. Oh yeah, I mostly spent a lot of yesterday sleeping too. I've got this weird thing where I'm now waking up at like 10 in the morning, and then I'm extremely tired, and then I'm going back to sleep. So I'm just on the verge of filling in that gap where I'd actually sleep, I think, for a full 8 hours plus of good quality sleep. I have to do something or I'm gonna die. So yeah, this morning I woke up at like 10 and fell back asleep, and that's not very efficient because you're spending some amount of time. Let's see. Where's the death rattle? I did check out the game Love Nikki, which is the fashion game that was talked about in that article. It's a mobile game, and it is a fashion game. It's very Asian to start with, I would say. It's definitely going into the anime fashion mentality versus I guess, well, I mean, I guess it really isn't much different than the Western fashion mentality either, but the way the characters are drawn is pretty anime, or arguably just good. But the main problem with Love Nikki, as I was trying to evaluate it, is there's a ton of microtransactions in it, and it uses styles. There's different battles each time, and you have to make a different outfit each time to be judged versus a competitor to get a score, and that's it. There's some special abilities that you can tap buttons, but the game, unlike Destiny's Child, doesn't play itself, so it's certainly not something I could play because it's way too much tapping. But the game also doesn't really make a lot of sense for the age range that I would have thought you would want to go with it because it's full of microtransactions, and some of the styles are tagged as mature, sexy, while other styles are cute, laid back, and usually it seems like every piece of the outfit has two styles, and you generally want both styles to match that battle. I went through the first chapter and it had audio in English, but after that first chapter, on guest mode at least, there was no more audio. That eventually happened in Destiny Child too, but it, I think, took longer than just the first chapter. So I don't think it's quite there. Like, I don't think it would be a game you would want to give to a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old unless you were super rich and did not care one bit about them spending potentially thousands of dollars in microtransactions. I don't think it's a very good game. Otherwise, it does have some weird, like, tattoos and that you can add as part of the style, which they don't make any point to say, oh, these are temporary tattoos or something like that. You can change the skin color of your character, not as a character customization, but just as a skin part of the design. So it's probably not politically correct to say, hey, I think I'd look better in this outfit, let me go drastically change myself from a pale white redheaded anime girl, which is what you start off with, into a black haired African American person. And you can change the makeup, and there's some combinations on the makeup where you are potentially doing blackface. You can put on makeup that will make your face look like an African American person. Wow, that is nice. But I would say the age range of the characters seems to start at maybe a 10 or 12-year-old and go up to a 25, 35-year-old. And there's different regions in Levniki that seem to dress in different ways. So as soon as I got to the second chapter, I ran into this lady who is basically in a dominatrix outfit in the cutscene of the conversation. It's oddly also an isekai game where you're playing as a character from another universe in another world who has a talking cat that is giving you hints and information. But it's just in a weird position. It's not family friendly enough and kid friendly enough. I think the fashion is fine, but the fashion is not extremely diverse. It is definitely coming from what I would guess is one or two artists who do have a bit of love for fashion. I won't deny them that, but also don't seem to want to go into wild, different varieties of fashion. Let's see. Is there anything here that would help me? The only thing I could think
I wonder what this does.
Is that, and I don't think that's going to do anything. Stealth until next turn. I mean, we can do that. For sure.
Job's done.
And I don't know how you'd really do a fashion thing. I think you probably would want something that was inspired by Barbie. If it was all the different outfits and all the different dolls that Hasbro sells around Barbie, then you have, I think, a bigger council of fashion people making very Western style clothing, where Love Nikki is really just a mix and match experience where you can easily put clothes, any random combination of clothes as you want, and you'll just get a lower score. And the scoring system's not blatantly obvious because you have dresses, but you also have tops and bottoms, so it is possible to equip a dress and then work down the list, and then equip a top, and then that would remove the dress. And then if you try to click okay, I'm done, at that point it says no, you're not. You have to actually have bottoms. So at the very least, the game tells them yes, you can't walk around just in your underwear and the top is a female person, which your mileage may vary on whether that's a message you want to ingrain into your children. And inherently, Love Nikki runs into that problem a lot. Is this really is so fashion based and so materialistic? It's probably a terrible game to let your kids play, because they're gonna ask you for clothing like crazy. And there's a big shift between having a one assumes little girl or little boy, let's say having a child, let's not gender it, and just struggling to keep them in clothing in general because they're having constant growth spurts, and like every year you're having to buy them almost a whole new wardrobe. If you throw on top of that an eye for fashion where they're wanting or demanding specific outfits that they may only wear once, that's super dangerous and super expensive if you're not careful.
This false power must be destroyed.
Let's see. So yeah, it's just not a game that way. Meanwhile, if you're coming from it as an adult and you wanted to see like high fashion plus a little bit of lewdness, then you're better off playing Destiny's Child, because Destiny Child is a game that is a gacha game in the exact same way that Love Nikki is. It has less microtransactions, if you can believe it, which is saying quite a lot, because there's quite a lot of microtransactions in Destiny Child, and it is an adult game built around the idea of having characters that are in some slightly lewd outfits. If you're playing the global version, rather lewd outfits. If you're playing the uncensored patch, particularly in the last two new characters that have been added, the lewdness has gotten to the point of just, at this point you're showing me the bare behind of one character, and another new character had a outfit that was just basically in a micro bikini, so a micro bikini bottom, which at a certain point, if you're playing the uncensored patch, you can't play the game in public anymore, and you can barely play the game in public even if you're playing the global censored things. So yeah, I said I'd check out Love Nikki. I checked it out. I was playing on a I was playing on a guest account, and it said if you uninstall it, you'll lose all your progress. and in less than a day and a half I uninstalled it and lost all my progress, and I was like, okay, I've been through the first chapter, I see what this is. I would also probably try to make an argument that we might as well, should we see this through? I guess. Let's see. I'm gonna take this golden candle. There's this issue that while I do like fashion, I don't know if I'd particularly ever like a fashion game. And what I mean by that is, I like the fact that
I could care less.
I like the fact that when you go to something like Code Vein, that is a very different artistic style in general, but also in the fashion, than what you would have for Bloodborne, or different from what you would have, at least slightly, from what you would have. Let's see. These are all good enemies to add.
Order up.
Let's see. Do I want to get rid of a friendly minion? No. Do I want to add 3 copies of this legendary one? Sure, why not?
I appreciate the extra business.
Probably get rid of that and it wouldn't matter, but I don't see a reason to.
Don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
So yeah, you have different art styles, like Super Mario. The universe of Super Mario Brothers is a different art style than Code Vein by far. Each one of those art styles, and in some small part fashions, even if it's done pretty badly in games, is done from a different artist's perspectives. So I would rather see more artist perspectives and thinking about fashion than play a mobile game or play a single game in general that really just has one very opinionated fashion critic or one very opinionated artist person. The same is true, I would say, for like manga and anime in particular. Is these are not the art style of one animator. Can only go so far. You have a lot of people trying to do Ghibli-esque art styles, and if everything looked exactly like Ghibli contents, that would be very annoying. Speaking of anime, it's worth mentioning, while this doesn't immediately feel like a directly related to video game issue, it actually very much is. I believe Kioni Animation Studios in Kyoto was attacked in an arson attack. The arsonist apparently believed that he was being plagiarized, although it seems like that's probably not true if I was to guess. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there might be some credibility to it. This arson attack burned a building that, from what I hear, had 2 entrances and exits and no fire doors, and thus the fire spread very, very easily and killed at least 30 people, I believe is the number we're up to now. At least one animator, I think, is missing from one of the anime series. It also, from what I hear, destroyed their current in-production animation, which is nothing compared to lives being lost or people being injured at all. and it also, I believe, destroyed a lot of their archives. I would not be surprised if most Japanese animation studios are in terrible old buildings. I wouldn't be surprised if most Japanese buildings are terrible old buildings, not up to code, and there would be a bunch of cells that had been animated in storage, which would burn pretty well, on top of several other lots of paperwork. Even though most things are done digitally these days, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of extra thing. I should have attacked with that. Oops. So this seems like a lot of history was lost on top of lives, which are way more important, and it's important always to say that, and on top of people being hurt. And it seems like a lot of current season, next season animation, possibly even the season after that, will be affected. To my memory, this might be the biggest, for let's just call it a terrorist attack because it is. This might be the biggest terrorist attack on Japanese soil since the gas attacks of the subways, which happened during the production of the last couple, or during the airing of the last couple of episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion, which were several decades ago. And that is why the original the original last two episodes of Neon Genesis ending looks so different and rushed, is because the original airing ending, which I guess was destroyed and never aired, was too close or too similar to those attacks. There have been some other attacks. There was a stabbing just a year ago against, I believe, a bunch of kindergarten kids and preschool, elementary kids, a bus full of elementary schools and such. But I don't think the numbers got that high as far as people getting injured. It is always an argument that can be made to say, well, in the whole gun control debate, the fact that he had to get gasoline poured everywhere and burn the place down is a lot more effort than it would take had he simply had a automatic rifle. You can never compare apples to apples to that, so but I would always argue that these kinds of attacks in places where you don't have easy access to guns usually, on average, does slightly reduce the amount of people getting hurt. The other issue for Japan in particular is, and I think this is a issue in general in a lot of countries all over the world, is we simply are not having people admit that mental health care needs to be improved, and thus we are running into a lot of people who are crazy being allowed to roam the streets when they really shouldn't be allowed to roam the streets. I think in Japan in particular, they're hands off, let the family deal with these kind of issues of mental health. It is very obviously the wrong approach and very prevalent, because you have a significantly high amount of stress and a significantly high amount of suicides in Japan, and that is not ever really being addressed. Let's see.
Job's done.
How an animation studio losing its creators and its work that it was working on and its history affects video games, in case it's not directly obvious, is a lot of animation studios get hired out to do either the intros or cutscenes in video games. A lot of animation studios might get hired to do a lot of the cutscenes and art in video games. Anime is a main source from which video games come from, so if there are lesser quality or fewer bits of anime that come out, then that is inevitably going to mean that at least a few less tie-in crossover games will be made, and so this will have ripple effects into that somewhat. In general, this might, in a very general way, might just bum out a lot of creative people in Japan, and people at Sony of Japan or Square Enix may just not be in as good of a mood, and they may not create in as good of quality work because of it. So yeah, butterflies and ripple effects certainly will probably be felt. I'm no big expert on it, and it's a developing story though, so I'll leave it mostly at that. There is people trying to raise money, and they've raised quite a few, like I think $1 million already in 18 hours. Getting that money to Japan and getting that money in the hands of people that really deserve it and can really do something might be dangerously difficult.
I wonder what this does.
Because like these kind of GoFundMe things, I don't know if there's an easy way to make a GoFundMe and send money across to a different country and not have it feel like you're just money laundering and get red flagged by people. So yeah, there's probably gonna be some major fundraisers and people trying to help in a lot of ways. Now I've been watching the deposition, and it is a counter story. The depositions of Vic Mignogna, who plays Broly in Dragon Ball games and the most recent and most successful Dragon Ball movie. And his lawyer was talking to another lawyer, and he was indicating a willingness to do something that I think every anime fan has always feared. This is a lawsuit that will, if it gets in front of a jury and isn't settled, which it now looks like more than ever we would want it to be settled and have this case disappear. Anime fans in general want very little extra attention from non-fans, because non-fans are certainly not going to understand the rich, long, crazy, weird history and mentality that is around anime. So Vic Mignogna's lawyer was saying, if I have to get in front of a Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth, Texas, jury, which, like, Texas people, and if I have to explain to them and show them clips of panty and stockings and garter belts and show them that here's two characters and that are highly sexualized and making sexual jokes, and I believe have the standard Sailor Moon lose their clothes to transform, or maybe they strip to transform. I haven't actually seen panty, stockings, and garter belts. It was on Toonami at some point, but I didn't bother to watch it. But he's making the point that every anime fan has ever wanted not to never see happen, is that if you put this in front of somebody, they're not gonna understand it or appreciate it at all, and they're gonna call it potentially smut and pornographic and lewd and objectionable, to say the least. And he even Vic Mignogna's lawyer even said, if some politician wants to be the new to get some kind of press on this, he could make this a national issue, certainly. And that certainly has been what has happened in the UK. Like recently, it seems like a man was in part convicted and sent to jail for having purchased adult anime in the UK because their nanny state laws have gotten so crazy, and it's ridiculous. And the UN, or at least a subcommittee of the UN, has been trying to make having adult anime, pornographic anime, hentai, completely illegal according to the UN. Meanwhile, the same UN is doing nothing about the actual problems around the world. Like there's real people, real children being sex trafficked all around the world. So dealing with cartoons should be at the bottom of the list, to the point where it's never talked about. And for the most part, I will say I'm kind of in Vic Mignogna's case, team. So far, it seems like he's really the actual aggrieved party. But there is a difference between Vic Mignogna and his lawyer, who doesn't really know anything about anime. And he is potentially he is suing in part Funimation, which is one of the biggest anime creators here. So yeah, anime fans have always wanted to be a niche audience. They want to bring in your one or two friends that you know might enjoy this. They don't want to bring in all people. We've been happy with Toonami's Adult Swim presentation at night, and that's about as far as.
Got to. I have returned.
So, yeah, I'm not saying that the end of anime is soon and everybody should start hoarding their anime and Blu-rays and DVDs, but honestly, in the anime's case, you should be hoarding and stockpiling your DVDs, just because those go out of sale and they often don't get re-released. I imagine there might be a sale that gives some money to charity eventually at the rightstuff.com. That's RIGHTSTUF1F.com, which is a major retailer of anime movies and merchandise and stuff and things. I imagine eventually there will be some kind of thing that discounts or gives to Keone Animation Studio as over that recovery. And fingers crossed, Vic Mignogna's lawsuit does not become this big thing. This is inherently what supporters of Vic Mignogna have been saying too, is that there are definitely people in many of these niche genres, whether it's comic books, video games, or anime, that have adopted such a crazy SJW infiltrate and then censor and destroy from the inside mentality, that there definitely have been some accusations on the side that the whole Vic Mignogna series with accusations are just in part to anger the
We get all
fans
types around here.
and cause division, of which it didn't really cause division as far as I can tell. As far as I can tell, that nobody bought into that at all. Let's see. Let's just do this. Yeah. That being said, the best they can do in the Vic Mignogna case is get rid of Vic Mignogna, who's just a dub actor, and that doesn't hurt the production of anime in Japan. It just hurts the introduction of anime to a new generation who doesn't want to watch subtitled videos, which I get if you don't want to watch subtitled videos, but
Oh, you can't go wrong with that one. They're irregular.
but yeah, there's that could hurt the industry in general, unless of course then somehow Vic Mignogna's lawsuit bankrupts Funimation, and that hurts the video game industry. I mean the anime industry. It'd be fine though. Frankly, like I think if Funimation went out of business, it would just split into a bunch of other corporations, and people would go and continue making stuff. But yeah, Funimation also publishes video games, so you have that tie-in. The biggest danger is if big news stories come out of something that is a tortious interference and slander, generally speaking, a civil case, to the point where everybody is reporting on it quite a bit. Although I don't think that would really happen unless a politician stepped in. And one thing you might say about U.S. politics right now is it is so politically charged on issues of the election, the upcoming election, that I don't think a politician would actually get much coverage talking about something other than Donald Trump. So you actually probably couldn't do what is suggesting as a politician, or wouldn't do what is being suggested might happen as a politician these days, because people are just more interested in other things, unlike previous decades where you had people ranting about violence in video games, and those events all happened when there was basically nothing going wrong with the economy. It was a very good time to be alive back then. The economy was good. People were pretty much doing well financially and socially. We weren't in any major wars or anything like that. So violence in video games could have been the main focus now. I can't imagine that the Senate, the House of Representatives, or the Senate would have these committee hearings over violence in video games, or lyrics and rap music. That's been completely forgotten about at this point. The anime in general is always rated via a TV MA or a movie MPAA style scale. I don't know if they're actually getting rated by those bodies, but they've always stuck to that, so there's always been a rating system, and I think most parents pretty quickly figure out that that really wouldn't the anime is not got a lot to offer for young kids. It really should be an angsty teen that gets an anime, not a 6-year-old. Netflix and Amazon Prime. Amazon owns part of Crunchyroll, the anime streaming service, so they would be severely hurt if all of a sudden major amounts of anime was not allowed or looked upon kindly. Also, it would severely hurt like what kids are actually watching. So yeah, but that does certainly trigger fears. Back when I was a major anime otaku a couple decades ago, it certainly triggers fears of, yes, there was a point in the 80s that if you put some of those some of those adult anime shows in front of a bunch of concerned grandmas or a bunch of politicians, there was a legitimate point where all of it in one fell swoop would have been banned.
None can escape the fury of the storm.
If I had a little bit more structure, I probably could just talk about anime for the rest of this stream, but I don't really want to do that. Let's switch directions slightly and have this article on Gamma Sutra. So we talk about the anime Pokemon Detective Pikachu is now the second highest grossing video game movie ever, at $429 million worldwide. Now, because Pokemon Detective Pikachu was actually a live action game, live action video with CGI, I'm not sure if you still would call it an anime, that specific movie, but certainly the cartoon series and the previous movie series has been like that. Let's see, Warcraft is the most received financial money. Warcraft sold very well in China, I think in part because it didn't really have to work around a lot of the language issues so much. So yeah, Warcraft sold well internationally, and due to that fact, it is the highest grossing movie. Now, in my mind, I thought for a second that the highest grossing movie might actually have been the Super Mario Brothers movie, but that, I guess, would have been a silly assumption. Well, this is working probably a little too well. And I could see why Detective Pikachu would also work well as a video game movie, because it's not really based on the Pokemon video game. It's just characters of the Pokemon video game, and then it's based on what is effectively, I think, a point-and-click adventure. So point-and-click adventures are usually built around the idea of being very dialogue based. Let's see, man. So yeah, and there's certainly, I guess, a mystery built around that story too. And I imagine if they made a Detective Pikachu 2, there'd be a drop in interest, since this was a new thing that had never been done before.
You will not be
So,
forgotten.
yeah, that
I got too much stuff.
it deserves the success, I think, more than Warcraft really deserved it, because I don't think Warcraft did it justice really to the Warcraft mythos. I don't think it really cared to. And I would still personally say that the old Super Mario Brothers movie is my favorite video game movie because it was somebody trying to stay somewhat true to the storyline, well, not really understanding the storyline or trying to make the storyline fit the audience of a general audience instead of making it be a love note to fans of the game. Although I could also argue that The Wizard is probably the best video game movie because it takes a Steven Spielberg-esque tale and just centers it around people who are playing video games. So, yeah, I would say The Wizard's probably the best video game movie, and that's probably where it should be. Is that there should just be people who play games, and that can be your main factor, but you don't really need to have the entire story of the game told. Even when you do have something, even when you have a story that's like one of the Final Fantasy movies that is telling the story of Final Fantasy, it doesn't really work that well. You need that interactivity in most games to make you interested in playing in seeing the cutscenes and interacting with those characters, because let's face it, the character writing in video games is not usually as good as a good movie can be. Here we have a game on Steam to consider. We need to rush through all these. Cats. It's called Cats Carefully Attempting Not to Screw Up. This looks like it's an asset flip game. Although it does look kind of varied. I feel like the name is too much of a troll name. And you're wearing these like cat heads in the first person shooter experience. It's $1.49 discounted. Yeah, this feels like a troll game, so I'm not gonna put that on the wish list or follow list. Not gonna put it on the follow list, is what I'm not gonna put it on.
The beasts betrayed me. Job's done.
Let's see. Next game we have to consider is FIA, European Truck Racing Championship. Not sure I want to see a bunch of trucks race each other. Well, this might be interesting for like a second. Inherently, I imagine these trucks are all about torque and very little bit about acceleration. So it really wouldn't make a lot of sense that these would be too interesting. They'd probably be better in a demolition derby. You can see this game is already rated mixed quality, so yeah. That I think you would make a racing game and then put in a truck like this as a joke car, not make your whole game around it. They want $39.99 for day one release, I guess. Bunch of language support. Yeah, I'm not sold on this at all.
Frost and grumble before the raging waters! You cannot turn the tide of battle!
What does this do?
Job's done.
After you attack a minion, force it to attack its neighbors. Oh. So it's doing nothing right now, basically. Next game we have to consider here is the Higurashi When They Cry How, Chapter 7, Minagoroshi. If I recall correctly, the Higurashi When They Cry series is every year somebody dies and somebody disappears. Well, somebody dies / disappears and they get replaced and memories are changed. And so it's a mystery in a visual novel element of figuring out who doesn't belong. This is such a long-running visual novel series that I think it's already on my wish list. So yeah, and they're not really charging a lot here for a visual novel at $7.19. The whole bundle is $46. Doesn't have full acting in Japanese, which kind of sucks, but I think these games are also kind of older if you look at the black bars on the sides. But there might be a different Higurashi When They Cry that's not How, H-O-U.
If you listen closely, you can hear the
But I think these should
sound
be
of
on the
the
wish list because I think they are probably in the top 3 lists of they're in the top 10 list of visual novels that have some relevancy and thus should be covered. So I'm gonna put that on the wish list. I could see myself doing a series of that like once a year, and that would be potentially 7 years that you could go through that and just like, all right, another year has happened, just like in the storyline. Let's see what happens. Alright. So ideally, if I can get this off the field, so this is left, and then get rid of everything else, that would be nice. Because then this would play for 1 mana, and then echo for 1 mana over and over again, and I could do it 10 times. Let's go and kill this for safety's sake. I'm gonna hold on to my weapon and then return. Next we have a game on Steam here called Alien Escape. I've seen a game like this before. It's a platforming game with spikes where the world spins in circles. This might actually be slightly better visually than previous versions of this type of game I've seen, but it still really isn't the kind of game I'd want to play. It's more around a frustration and trying over and over again, and it just seems visually simplistic, and it probably doesn't have 70 levels, probably about 32 few, $4.99.
delay my escape.
Let's see, play this. And do this. And then let's just kill that.
Flames consume you.
This is irritating.
Fly, Polly.
Seems like I'm gonna lose again if I'm not careful.
Take any shape.
I really want to pay attention here because it would be nice to actually win. This is about the 4th time I've been down this line during this experience. Alright. There we go. What does this guy do? Oh, he summons something when he's inspired. Cool. gonna try very hard to keep, I guess, this mech on the field and get rid of everything else. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. Marvel's Iron Man VR Learning to Fly Developer Diary Impulse Armor Illustration Time Lapse. This seems like this is a hype article for Marvel Iron Man VR, which probably is going to be heavily similar to the Spider-Man game that was in VR. This and this and then this and then what do I want to do in the turn? If I had a kid and I had a VR headset, maybe I'd be willing to risk that $500 plus piece of equipment so that they could try an Iron Man experience. That makes sense, certainly, but I would also be very cautious about that. 2 damage and 1 to the adjacent ones. Let's see. Can we do anything? Yeah. I'm wearing this guy down, so theoretically, if I can just get through his next 16 cards, or draw my 26 cards, theoretically. This is not gonna work well. Can we do this and this? No, we have to pick. So if I did this, this won't win. Do this, it won't win.
You delay my escape.
I guess that keeps the field full. Man, I just keep running into problems. I can attack the face, and that's all I can do. But we're at the point where I think if this hit here, if this just randomly hits this, then we will all lose. Oh, this sucks. There's literally nothing else you can do. Throw this out, or just hope that this does something. Gain spell damage +2 this turn. So I've lost yet again, and I tried really hard, and it's super frustrating to have to continuously go through these runs. And that's why I don't really try to do them, and yet the daily quests are pushing me towards doing them all. I guess the Fire Festival is over, so so we won't be getting special daily challenges due to that, but we would have had to beat another one. We did unlock something though, at least. Alright, well, one of these days I'll get the Delarian heist completely done, or I'll quit playing this game, which odds are I'll quit playing the game. There's a good chance I'll quit playing the game before that happens. And my victories as playing as the Hunter did not count on Solo Adventure. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Fantasy Heroes. It looks like it's just an RPG Maker game. Now, one thing I will say is this probably looks slightly better in the animation department than what I've seen. You've got nice big characters. They could easily have been a quarter of that size. And this animation style is not amazingly interesting, but it's not terrible. But when you get down to the pixel characters, there's nothing that can really be said there, and the one enemy we see here, a werewolf, is just in white for really no reason. This is $4.49 in English only, and 9 achievements. Yep, still just an RPG Maker game though, not something that would actually make it to the follow list. Let's see, Gamma Sutra has an article here, and I think we'll try and skip through articles as quickly as possible. Ubisoft says porting games to the Stadia hasn't been a costly affair. I don't really need to get down to any more details than that. Of course, porting games to Stadia hasn't been a costly affair. It's literally just a virtual machine of a Windows 10 box, I'm sure. So you're given the very specific specs of this is the kind of video card it's going to be working with, this is the kind of CPU processor power, this is the amount of RAM, this is the amount of hard drive speed you can expect. That's really all that you need to know. So yeah, that shouldn't be a costly affair at all. It should just work out of the box with very little issues. What would be a costly affair is if you start getting thousands upon thousands of people playing via Stadia, and you start seeing, oh, there's this one specific bug that only happens on Stadia and nowhere else, thus you need to put out a patch for that one specific bug. That could get expensive, but you won't even start seeing that until you get into massive beta testing, which is what all the first year of Stadia is.
Defend the gates.
Here's a interesting looking game on Steam. It's called Eye of the Owl, and it seems like this is Eye of the Owl Bosch VR, and it seems like you're going to Bosch's studio, Bosch being a painter. I believe I've seen this art piece. It's the well, no, I've seen several. It used to be an art style where you'd have 4 panels, and it seems like in VR you can zoom in on it, and yeah, he painted these 4 panels of like heaven, hell, purgatory and such, and there's a lot of detail in the paintings. Put a lot of work into it. So seeing that in VR, yeah, I've seen this art piece for sure. There's and having a magnifier to look at the detail on these art pieces, these surreal art pieces. I'm a big fan of surrealism, so this would be right up my alley. Yeah, I think you see here this was rated positively. It's free to play. It requires VR. I'm going to put this on my follow list. This feels like the type of thing that VR can really work towards to filling this. By the way, if YouTube thinks this isn't family friendly, it is art, so you need to reevaluate what you think is family friendly. It is famous art. And actually seeing and interacting in some way with the artist is an interesting idea. It's a bit of fiction around it, but I've seen museums do very similar things. This is what in particular you want, I think VR can do, is it can bring the art to a lot more people than if you were to simply try to have the art travel to different museums, because inevitably there's a large percentage of people that would never go to a museum. It costs money to go to a lot of museums, most museums, and it costs time and effort, and of course it costs money and maybe some time and effort to own a VR headset too. But we may get down to a point where schools have a collection of VR headsets, and they use those to educate. Again, probably in high school, I think, more than in elementary school. And surrealism is probably not something that you would want to go into much depth on in an elementary school level. Anyways, we're done with the America's account. Let's move over to the European account. We've got a game over here on Steam called Possession, which looks like it's a top-down crawler of some sort, a strategy placement game. Whatever it is, it's not visually appealing in any way, so I have no interest in it. They want $8.99 discounted, English only. There was a game called Geist, G-E-I-S-T, that came out in previous generations of consoles, at least on the Xbox 360, I believe, is what I played it on. And in that game, you do play as a ghost that has to possess objects and possess people throughout the entirety of the game. And then when you possess a certain person, it turns into a first-person shooter, I think, until you die, which is an interesting concept, certainly, but it didn't get expanded upon. So we need Paladin and Warrior victories, we need Mage class cards, we need Rogue class cards. Are we done with the Tavern Brawl? Yes, we are, according to that. So, victories might take more time than playing Mage class cards and Rogue class cards, so let's just play Mage to start with. We've had some high profile stepping downs happen, so we'll talk about that. Gamma Sutra has an article here. id Software studio director Tim Willits is stepping down after 24 years. It seems weird that you have a lot of big time people step down after like 24 years instead of 30 years, but I imagine these type of people have been fully vested in any stock options and any pension that almost certainly there is no pension at all, so that's probably not something that they need to worry about. But also, I guess it makes a little bit of sense, because while some people may have started at 20 and now they're in their mid-40s, a lot of people may be on their second career, and they may have started working at id Software in their 30s and now they're in their mid-50s and rich enough and young enough to want to retire. Yeah. I don't think that there's much to take from this other than the quote here is, I've decided to leave id Software after QuakeCon, which was renamed DoomCon. I can say, as somebody who just played Doom 2016, id Software has been very much around working on their engine and not really making a game for a rather long time. So when EA, I believe, owns id Software now, EA is probably going to shutter id Software after Doom Eternal. There's a good chance of that. It sounds like that's very possible. What seems like that's the way this is going to go, and Doom Eternal will just be the end of this reboot of Doom, and then they're not going to go for a trilogy. Yeah, and I just don't think that's what people at id wanted to do. Anyways, I honestly don't believe they want to make games. I honestly believe they wanted to make an engine and sell that engine, and that engine is not getting sold to anybody. It's not going to beat Unity or Unreal or the Crysis engine. Yeah. Willits joined id Software in 1995 after impressing the studios with a series of Doom levels he created in his spare time. He initially worked on a level designer, leading to another projects, including the Ultimate Doom, Strife, and Quake. I would also argue there's a level here of ignoring the past as far as Quake and Strife and some of the other id products. They're taking Commander Keen and making a mobile game out of it. So yeah, they're really not doing good things at id Software. Even though Doom 2016, a lot of people liked it, I felt like it was overhyped and it needed a lot more work in it. So unless I hear that Doom Eternal has way more of a single player experience and way more polish and way better level designs, I'm not going to be very quick to play Doom Eternal. See, Willits was serving as the lead designer on Doom 3, which was a major failure, and later he took on the mantle of the executive producer of Quake 4, which Quake 4 was also a big failure. So you really have a large amount of failure around id Software. I don't know how you say it any other way. There's really a lot of games that failed to be as popular as the original Doom was, and frankly that haunts the studio for all of eternity. This and this, and then this.
This one's a real page turner.
Gotta just hope this thing hits 4 times, and it didn't. So then this, and this. The article ends. Willits hasn't revealed any plans on what he plans on doing during his departure. Willits also oversaw the creation of the Rage franchise and the Doom reboot. Now, Rage 2 was a big failure, too. And I don't think id Software did Rage. So, Rage 1 or Rage 2. So, yeah. He really is not super successful from the outside. That doesn't inherently mean he isn't amazingly successful from the inside, because he may have accomplished a lot of things that people are not aware of, but you'll never really know unless somebody writes a documentary about it or spills some information. Game Sutra has another article. Microsoft sees a dip in its quarterly Xbox revenue as hardware sales slow down. This is the first dip I think we've seen in a while. So, not super surprising though. Microsoft really didn't announce anything about its Project Scarlet. It really didn't announce anything about Project Scarlet, really, and that would have been the thing we would have wanted to see. Is a release date and some more pictures and just showing off what the next Xbox is going to look like. Once the next Xbox comes out, which is not this year, as far as I know, not this holiday season, I imagine we'll see it gain in sales. They'll gain in hardware sales again. It is also worth mentioning that Toys R Us is opening up 2 stores. I saw this on the news, but they are more like daycare centers with playgrounds than actual toy stores. It's not really going to just be shelves of toys, and one's in New Jersey, one's in Texas, so it's just 2 locations by this holiday season. And then there is hopes that by the time I guess next season happens, that they'll have more traditional storefronts open. Right. Let's see. In turn, I guess. So this holiday season, as far as selling video games, Toys R Us is not going to be a factor, so that there will be fewer toy stores in general in the United States this holiday season, for the either first or second year. Of course, you could always order things online pretty easily. I also saw something on Facebook that I don't know if this is fake news Facebook story or not, that GameStop might be looking towards promoting more retro gaming in their stores and getting away from modern video game sales, which, I mean, GameStop has to try something. Let's see.
The future is ours. Behold the tools of creation.
I was lucky to win there, but whatever. And that played 11 of 30 mage cards. Nice. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Zynga is growing its presence in India with a studio expansion. It's leaving its old space behind and moving into a new office in Bengaluru. I'm probably not pronouncing that city right. Let's see. Apparently Bengaluru is a central hub for game development with talented professionals. Now I will say I have started to see the beginnings of a game development hub in India, but there's still a lot of questions about whether game development can succeed in India, particularly when you're having people arrested, children arrested for playing Fortnite, and banning the game directly outright. So, inherently, what everybody says about India is that the government is doing anything with the government is a nightmare, and I would add on to that there are definitely parts of India that seem to be maybe even a decade or 2 behind culturally than more central areas. And that the same can easily be said for parts of the United States. There are parts of the United States where mentally and just on what they believe and what laws they want to enforce or create is 2-3 decades behind what you would see in a modern city with a more liberal group of people, liberal in the literal term.
Happy Midsummer Fire Festival.
Let's see, spell damage here, and then attack. Gamma Sutra has an article here. The Oculus Quest teardown shows how a standalone VR headset was built. So here's the picture. This looks like there's a fan on it. This probably connects to a screen here and maybe a screen here. This looks like this might be an expansion slot for memory, and this might be an expansion slot for memory or the CPU so that they could be easily replaced. This might be shielded because this is some kind of Wi-Fi transmission, but I could be wrong about any of these things too, because I would need to get a lot closer. Let's go and squelch this character too, because they're trying to push me to play faster. So yeah, I was hoping for more of a teardown here. It has a Snapdragon 835 CPU, and it has 4 cameras mounted around the edges of the motherboard for 6 degrees of freedom. There's actually a link here to a full set of pictures. So yeah, let's just scroll through this and see if we can see any more information from this rather quickly. Of course, you're risking a lot taking apart something like that. That's so expensive. And this page sucks, to say the least. Yeah, not much you can really see from this. The thing about images like this is they need to be super zoomed in to actually see the numbers on the chips and trace the patterns on the circuitry if you're going to try and do something like that, as far as a teardown is concerned.
Someday I'll be just like you. Someday I'll be just like you.
Alright. 4, 3 to the min, and then the minions next to it. Like that. And
Time runs out on me.
draw this card. And then let's go ahead and do this and do this.
Job done.
I definitely wouldn't say the Oculus Quest is doing anything amazing with its technology. It's iterations of the VR concept as it currently is, and the Oculus concept of the lenses. And we need to see more iterations to reduce the price, and more iterations to reduce the weight, and more iterations to make it more functional and more useful. I guess we have to do this.
This one's a real page turner.
2 random 4 cost minions can't do it. This guy's gonna kill me, kill everybody. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job. Disruptor Beam is hiring a senior game designer. That's in Framingham, Massachusetts, if you're interested. Do you play your rightmost card in your hand? Draw a card.
The future is ours.
the tools of creation.
There we go.
Job's done.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Master Cube. This is a fly around space asteroids game as a cube. It in no way interests me. Bunch of neon colors because they have no textures in a black space. $1.69 discounted English full audio, it says. I doubt it though.
The future is ours.
I
Behold
wonder
the tools
if there
of
would be a
creation.
way in which Steam could clean up its full audio option. I think what you could do is you could say, hey, if you're going to claim you have full audio, then simply just tell us the name of the voice actors in your game, and then if they can't update that little bit of information, then you know that it really doesn't have full audio, because that's what it means. And it wouldn't be terrible if Steam did have the ability to search by, hey, this was voice acted by an actor that I actually do recognize his voice, and I actually do like to follow his work. That's actually an interesting point that I might bring up on the Steam forums. Post as an idea. Gamer Sutra has an article here. Gaminizing. It's supposed to be Game and Reminiscing 101. Recording my grandmother's childhood memories to turn them into a video game. It's a blog, and it's basically promoting this game called Brutal Extras, which, alright, whatever. But it did look like it was an interesting idea to interview your grandma and then animate something around that. Although, it really is a 1 in 1,000 shot that actually works, and there's actually anything interesting to say there. For every grandma who survived being interned in a concentration camp, there's plenty of grandmas that had nothing interesting happen to them that they wish to talk about at the very least. They probably did have interesting things. That's been my experience with my relatives, is that unless you catch them off guard, they often don't want to talk about the past, and so they won't tell you. Quite a few interesting stories that I have eventually tricked them into telling me. And I don't think I'm too much different, frankly. Like, there's plenty of instances where there are stories I could tell, but don't feel like telling them, or they're just I don't remember them at that exact moment. Moving on, Gamer Sutra has another blog, Steam Diving Bell, a tool for Wikipedia binging Steam games. So, how do you get this
asked for it.
Steam Diving Bell? It's not one of the Steam Labs thing. And you just click this link and we'll see how well it works. It seems like it finds hidden gems and things with similar tags, and then things that are reverse matches. So, is this kind of a grid? So you have this hidden gem, and then Trails of the Sky is the exact opposite of this hidden gem, and this Grenada 2 is the exact opposite of this. And then you have Half Minute Hero, and then a hidden gem, 2 half minute. Now I guess it starts in the middle. I guess you start with Chrono Trigger, and then you say Trails of the Sky is the exact opposite of Trails of the Sky, and then the hidden gems are Half Minute Hero, and I can't read this logo. We'll come back to that in a second. So things that have similar tags to Chrono Trigger are Evoland 2 and Cthulhu Saves the World. And then you have a loose match to Chrono Trigger with Dragon Quest 10 or 11 and one of the Neptunia games. Interesting. That's an interesting idea, but it does kind of just show the same information. Here, apparently Steam has some default matches, so if you go to Chrono Trigger's page, these are the games you'd be recommended directly. Let's see. We don't really need to do anything this turn. Which, yeah, Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy games, but you've got like 3 Final Fantasy games here, which seems, no, there's 4 Final Fantasy games here. That's too many Final Fantasy games to be recommending by default. These are exactly the Steam's More Like This section, which with Discovery 2.0 has gotten a little bit better, but not a ton better. So, yeah, this is an interesting project of a web app, for lack of a better term, to better give you suggestions. Let's see. Although, if it's just a web app and it's not a plugin, I don't know really the use for it any more than just yet another way to suggest games. And inherently that is all Valve is. So there's kind of a reason you'd want things like that, but not a ton. Just go ahead and do this. So here's the actual thing, and it doesn't seem like you get a real choice here. You hover over the things, and right now you have Final Fantasy selected, and you can go more, but let's see, here's an Atelier game. Atelier Lulula, the Sign of Ireland. It takes you directly to a bunch of information that's scraped right from the Steam page. Yeah, this needs to be a plugin, though. It's giving you 2 loose matches, 2 reverse matches, 2 hidden gems, and 2 similar tags. And if we wanted all hidden gems, we would then, I guess, you toggle the other things off. You could do it that way. If you wanted no hidden gems, you could toggle it that way. So every game has a return of 8 games around it. And this is just neural mesh networking type idea. But this totally needs to be a plugin. This needs to be something that shows up directly on the Steam store page, not something that I have to go to a different page to do. Yeah. But I would also say the diving bell concept does implement itself better than the interactive recommendation recommender, with the exception of it doesn't know what games are already in my wish list. Because if it knew that, then it would exclude some of those games. So I could see people at Valve going, hey, let's do this diving bell concept. It's much visually a better concept than just a straight shelf of a long line of things that scrolls one way or the other. You get more here. If you integrated the 5-second trailers that auto-generated on this, that would be nice too. But yeah, you've got a much better visual presentation here of recommendations and why they're being recommended right at the top.
This one's a real page turner.
Let's see.
Free of that blasted tower!
Evil mind.
Job done. Behold!
So I like the concept of the diving bell. I hate the implementation of it. Borderlands Game of the Year Edition is free to play, I believe, on Xbox this weekend. Free to play for a short time. If anybody's interested in that, I question how they're marketing and building up hype for Borderlands 3. Like, letting people play Borderlands 1 for free seems crazy because there's no real backwards compatibility or forwards compatibility with that. So yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
This one's a real page turner.
Job's done.
Let's see. So yeah, there's some weirdness with that. Also, the VIP program has a new code called Borderlens, Lens, all one word, that you can do if you're a VIP member, which means you would have had to pre-order Borderlands 3. It seems crazy that they're splitting shift codes and the VIP codes. Why not just maintain shift codes and have it work the same way as it has always worked? Why try to create a secondary competing system? There is a early access, well, no, not early access, there's an announcement of a woodworking simulator game. That, I don't know if I have an article about that, but I wanted to mention it. It's a funny idea, certainly. Woodworking, I don't think quite falls under the category, I would say, as a game that's doing somebody else's job as much as it's a game that's doing somebody else's hobby. While there are people in the construction industry, actual proper woodworking happens more in the arts than in construction, and as hobbies. So I wouldn't immediately hate it for that reason. And certainly it would be potentially cheaper to buy a woodworking simulator than to buy all the hardware, all the safety gear, potentially injure yourself as you screw up and like let a blade slip if you're accident prone. So there's a potential savings in cost and a potential savings in risk and danger. Although I imagine the game is not going to feel too much like that. You won't get as dirty playing the simulator game also. But yeah, we'll talk about that more when it actually comes out, if it actually comes out. I think I'll win here. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. EA has announced Plants vs. Zombies 3. The pre-alpha is available now. From this picture, it looks like it is possibly a Plants vs. Zombie game again, but we really don't know because this is a joke meme picture, because you have PopCap here being defended and EA having a bunch of loot boxes over here. Let's see. The Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare was full of microtransactions, and I believe that was the last game. to come out that they made for EA. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised also if Plants vs. Zombies 3 starts off with very little to no microtransactions and then gets a ton of microtransactions added after all the reviews come out 6 months to a year later. Call of Duty, I believe, has done that, and
All too easy.
and anybody who's still playing Call of Duty can't attack while damaged. Interesting. I don't think is super happy with the way split screen multiplayer, I believe, has been removed, at least temporarily, and the loot boxes now have guns in them when they didn't before. I really don't know the exact details, but it sounds like, yeah, that game, which did not sell well in the first place for other reasons, is now even worse, so you wouldn't want to buy it now. And I believe Call of Duty might be an EA game, and EA is still the worst. Like, it's funny, these articles came out just a few weeks ago going, EA's struggling with and tired of being the bad guy, and then you look at their actions, it's like, no, EA, you're the bad guy because of your actions that you're doing even now. So yeah, while I'm on an individual level with a person might go, okay, you've done some bad things in your past, but I'm willing to give you a chance. I'm really not in the mood to do something like that with a corporation, particularly when a corporation can't even seem to maintain a few months of not doing something terrible. Right, that's the mage class cards. Now we need to play rogue class cards, which might be a little bit harder. Next we have a game on Steam here called TTV3, which this looks like it's almost an art style, but what it looks like as far as how it plays, it's a Super Meat Boy style game where you're just dragging a mouse or moving a character around with a cursor. This feels very much like a heavy frustration style of game. It seems like you're flying around. It's $1.49. And yeah, it's just not something I'd want to play. 6 achievements doesn't mean it doesn't seem like it's an achievement game. It just seems like it's kind of a slightly low effort game and selling on edginess and being a little hardcore to play, as I imagine how it's trying to sell itself. Need to hurry through this. All this news. Gamma Sutra has an article. Congregate has acquired the mobile and browser game Bit Heroes. If anybody plays Bit Heroes, it's now owned by Congregate. I really haven't heard of it and don't think it's that interesting looking. Let's see. And the lackey to your hand. In the turn. Next we have a game on Steam here called Horus, which looks like it's a platforming game. It also seems like it's going all over the place as far as what kind of game it is. So this might be an interesting game. It's from 505 Games. I think 505 Games is known for publishing garbage now. Bloodborne? Never mind. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night? Not. Control is coming out from 505 Games. I rescind that statement 100%. Alright. Well, this game looks weird, is all I can really say. It seems to be an assortment of mini games, and it's got some prestige behind its publisher. So, for $13.49 discounted, that's really expensive sounding. but I'll put this on the follow list and see what people who buy it and review it have to say. Seems like there's a character that looks like a Peanuts character outfit. Let's see. Play fast enough. I'm getting bad at that. I need to hurry. I need to get back to playing when the rope starts burning faster. Next we have a game on Steam called Warlocks 2 Godslayers. Looks like this is a pixel graphics platformer. If any of these videos want to load. Let's see. There might be something to this. Let's come over here and play for a second.
Back to the void.
So this seems like it's a platformer with rogue, maybe not roguelike, but RPG elements. Your character evolves and gets better. Yeah, this looks like somebody's trying, even though it is pixel graphics, whereas a lot of pixel graphics games don't look like anybody's trying. This is discounted to $15.99 in a bunch of languages. Support, so I'll put this on the follow list too. Although I probably need to find out if there's a Warlocks 1 from this developer. They made House Flipper before, so, but they didn't make Warlocks 1. So who made Warlocks 1, or is it just not on Steam? So I'll need to do some research. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to.
How much is this worth to you?
Wouldn't make a lot of sense to play the sequel without playing the first one first.
Choose soon.
Put this apple on your
Next we have a game on Steam called Old War 2. This does not look as visually interesting. This looks like a top-down real-time strategy. One sentence description, feels very low effort. Couple of tags and that's it. $1.43 discounted. English and Russian. Yep, this looks like a low effort game. Very low effort game. So that won't make it to the list.
How much is this worth to you?
Let's see.
I'll take that. Evil is I'll take that.
Let's... Why can't I return an enemy? I guess I can do that.
From nothing, power. Back to the void.
Choose soon.
There we go. TechRaptor has an article here. Epic Games Store's next two free games are Moonlighter and The War of Mine. Moonlighter's a game that only came out like 6 months ago, and this War of Mine, I believe, is also a game that maybe came out 8 or 9 months ago. So if you are going through the Epic Games Store and also not running into problems of the of them losing your games once you uninstall them due to their messed up purchase history,
I'll take that.
issues. Getting the free games makes sense for people trying to build a new PC collection. But inherently, you have to have faith that the Epic Game Store is going to be something good in the future, and it's going to be your platform of choice to get all the games you play on PC, or you're willing to have multiple launchers. And I don't see any evidence that that is what's going to happen with the Epic Game Store. I think it's going to fail. It's been failing pretty miserably so far, and then it's going to just lose interest, and they're going to abandon the project.
This time.
Or abandon the storefront. So how many rogue cards did that play? 10? Alright, we're not doing terrible. 2 more games. Then we'll skip over to the Asian Cup. Next we have a game here called Etherborn, which is a 3D platformer with is it MC Escher style gravity and mechanics, where you're walking around twisting worlds and such. It looks like it has a level of visual polish on it. So I don't think that this is super low effort. Although you could argue that a lot of the graphics do look a little simplistic. It's $16.99 or $19.99, can't read it. And it supports English and Spanish in full audio and several other languages. I'm willing to put this on the follow list because I've seen some people talking about it. This might be just it's a small indie game that's a little overhyped, or it might be that this is a game to keep an eye on. And I've been pretty loose these past 2 streams as far as what games I'm willing to put on the follow list, which is fine. It's not going to kill me if the follow list gets a little bigger. Let's see, Gamatsu, I believe this was today's first Gamatsu article. Wargroove for the PS4 launches July 23rd. Wargroove being a top-down RPG game that I hear some good things about. It's already on Steam. Could look at the Steam page, I suppose. Yeah, it's rated very positively. So I'll double check and see if that's on the follow list or the wish list. Because it probably should be on the wish list at this point. Just by mob rule. Right.
This is our town.
Yeah, beat it.
Bethesda. Yeah, Bethesda owns id Software. Not EA. Oh, man, I was saying the wrong thing earlier. Bethesda tweeted out the Doomslayer cosplay guide. Probably way too late, considering when QuakeCon/DoomCon is going to happen, and when you consider that there's just a considerable amount of armor that is here, and it seems like I can't even get it. It's supposedly loading a new image, but I think this pop-up here is stopping the image from popping. Nope. It's just not loading it. I would also argue that Doom Guy, as a person that you might consider cosplaying as, is basically the equivalent of cosplaying as a stormtrooper. You're showing very little off about your own physical appearance and your own body. It's all armor. It's going to be very generic and not very unique, unless you put a big twist on it. And I don't know how much of that really has to do with making a costume as much as it is making plastic armor or some other form of armor. Because, yeah, in all reality, you're not sewing cloth to make Doom Guy's outfit. You're basically just making a slight variation on a Master Chief outfit. It's a weird diversion there where you have most cosplay outfits are in part to show off the model underneath, and then you have a few that are 100% designed to just show off the armor. And frankly, if you're not an attractive model, if you don't have any kind of body type that works for cosplay, you shouldn't be getting into cosplay in the first place. Otherwise, you're going to end up playing Master Chief, a Stormtrooper, and Doom Guy over and over again. That's something that a cosplayer's boyfriend might do to feel involved, but it's not going to really win any awards. Or it's going to get boring really fast, too.
This is our town.
Beat it.
There we go. See, next we have a game on Steam here called Claw Staff, which looks like it is an extremely low effort game. Nothing here would make me want to give it even another second of consideration. It's $4.99 with an article talking about why it's so expensive, trying to justify that price. Yeah, no, that's not making it to the fall list. Let's see. We don't have any elementals, right?
Here we go.
There we go. I'm probably gonna win. Gamma Sutra has an article here. PC overtakes the PlayStation 4 as Ubisoft's most lucrative platform this quarter. Now, this is timed right as the Ubisoft Premium Uplay Plus service is coming out for PC. I don't know if it's coming out for PS4 or anything else, but it is also an interesting statement that here you have the French company Ubisoft, that's a big AAA publisher, not making as much money from PlayStation 4 games, and thus PlayStation 4 looks like it's not being as successful, as the PS4 is also in the middle of doing a lot of things to irritate a lot of its partners in the form of censorship, which I'm going to bring almost every story back around that, back around to that conversation.
Here we
So
go.
that's how I take this announcement, in part, at least in a small part.
This might hurt.
So yeah, the quarter one 2018 to 2019 was 38% PS4, where quarter one 2019 to 2020 is 31%, so 7% drop, whereas it was only a 4% drop for the Xbox One, and it was a 10% increase for the PC. The Switch, the mobile platforms, and others, for the most part, stayed pretty much the same. So you're seeing the Ubisoft games more and more being played on PC. There's just more and more people playing PC games in general, but particularly PlayStation 4 was hit hard because of that. Tech Raptor has an article here. Former Witcher developers announced Wanderlust travel stories coming this August. Now, this is Witcher 1 developers. So,
Always do.
Witcher 1 was a very text-based, kind of simplistic RPG, nothing like The Witcher 3. And if you look at this screenshot, you can kind of see that what they're getting back to is something that is more simplistic and not 3D graphics. This is the lead narrative designer and project lead of Witcher 1. So, yeah, this looks very much like a mobile game. Not something that I think will sell to a lot of people who are fans of the Witcher 3. And frankly, this is kind of too much of a text-based game for me to even put into the file list. From the looks of it, it's not good enough, not visually enough, not interactive enough. And they want $19.99 for it too, which is way too expensive. So yeah, I think that's a hard pass as far as I'm concerned.
This is our town, scrub.
Komatsu has an article. Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark is coming to the Switch August 14th. This is a strategy placement RPG. We could jump through these
Mind if I roll me?
trailers. This actually looks pretty good. Is it on PC, I wonder? Let's see. It's on Steam Early Access, I guess. Now the problem with Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark is it's very much like the Disgaea series, and I think it would make a decent amount of sense for me to simply play the Disgaea series instead.
Here we go.
You look at me.
Job done.
Too soon.
Or first, at the very least. So, LEGO Worlds tweeted out, the final collection ever of LEGO Worlds content is finally here for free. Download all of its amazing content and continue making your own stories and environments today. So, basically what this means is LEGO Worlds, which was supposed to be a Minecraft competitor, but was really ruined and then abandoned by TT Games. This is their full announcement. It was in early access, I believe, longer, if not close to the same amount of time as it was actually out of early access, and it's already abandoned.
Here we go.
I think you're still pretty safe though to buy LEGO Worlds. I don't think they're going to shut down the servers or in any way. They may shut down the multiplayer, and then that would significantly decrease the playability of it. But I think there will always be like a patch and upgrade. They'll try to sell it amongst the dozens of other LEGO games that are out there. Of which, by the way, I think I'll be getting back into playing LEGO games now that I've no longer have that problem of the micro stuttering, or hopefully no longer have that
Here
problem.
we go.
I also have received my 970 Evo Plus, but not put it into my computer, so I'm gonna have to shut down my computer, take a moment to probably dust it out and put this Blu-ray drive I've had sitting around for a long time in it. Yep. I think it's a Blu-ray burner actually. And boy did it swing between, oh, I think I'll need a Blu-ray burner from backups to, there's no way I'd ever be able to back up anything to a Blu-ray. Even a 50 gig Blu-ray is way too way too much. Is way too little space. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Action adventure game platformer The Forbidden Arts launches August 7th for the Xbox One, Switch, and PC, and Q4 for PS4. So why is the PS4 delayed? That's the question. Something censored on the PS4? I don't think there's been a story of yet another game getting censored on the PS4 this week, but there was one last week. Which looks fine as far as a game, The Forbidden Arts. It's something I'd put on the fall list when it comes out on Steam. After the hero attack summon. And let's see.
Ha, this guy's toast.
This.
Here we go.
This. TechRaptor has an article here. Nintendo introduces a new Switch model with better battery life. I don't know if they're all going to be gray, and that's going to be the indicator that it's the better battery life model. But that would be a differentiator versus the red and blue controllers. So the new model's battery life will be 4.5 to 9 hours as opposed to the original's 2.5 to 6 hours. It seems like the new model code is HAC 01-01. And with serial numbers beginning XKW. So, yeah. Better battery life is interesting, certainly, but not a major seller for people who are playing the Switch plugged into the dock all the time. So it's gonna be, mileage may vary on that.
Ha, this guy's toast.
Here we go.
I think I can just continuously attack the face and win here. Gematsu has an article, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. Has some gameplay trailers to show off.
I hope you like my invention.
So the little trailer hype articles. They gotta get as much hype as possible. What kind of game is this though? It's probably a visual novel. It's an Atlas game. The guy's wearing underwear on his head. There's being silly. There's a anime character kind of like that. What kind of game is this? No.
I wonder.
Could be an RPG game. It could be anything. They call it a dramatic adventure game. Due out for the PS4 November 28th in Japan. I imagine 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is coming to the rest of the world.
I'm up to no good. Me too. Who's ready to make some money?
Here we go.
Job's done.
Darn it. Gematsu has an article, action adventure game A Rat's Quest Away Back Home has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. We're starting to get real announcements for games again and actual releases of games on Steam. It's nice to see that happen, certainly. Let's see what this trailer shows. It's like a 50-second trailer. There was quite a few games that came out where you play as rats, and it seems like rats, mice, things like that. It seems like that's going to be a continuing issue. Yeah, there's always been a small niche fan base of fantasy storytales with rats. Kill that.
Oh, up to no good. Me too.
Double time and
This.
double bang. Double
This.
and double bang. Double time
This.
and double bang.
So,
No breaks. No breaks. No.
here we go.
Evil is fun. Evil is fun.
Here we go.
End the turn. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Queen's Quest V: Symphony of Death. Is this a hidden object game? I bet it is. Yeah. It's selling for $11.99, discounted. English full audio. Again, nothing terrible looking on it as far as it is. It's widescreen, which is nice, but it is just a hidden object game, and I am not interested in playing hidden object games anymore. Next, we have the game Gorn on Steam, which means it's out of early access. This requires VR. You can see it's overwhelmingly positive as far as people playing in VR. I believe this is a multiplayer. Nope, it's single player only. Interesting. So it's a Devolver digital game where you play as a big lunk fighting in an arena. If any of these images would load against other monsters. I guess I'll put this on the follow list, but in all reality, for $14.99 discounted, I don't think that's something I'd really want to buy. Yeah. Just supports the English language. Yeah. It's probably not something I'd ever actually buy. But whatever. Let's see. This. There.
Here we go.
And
Too soon.
I'll give it a follow and think about it, but almost certainly, I think that's gonna get removed from the follow list, not put to the wish list. Gamatsu has an article, Pokemon Masters Battle Like Never Before trailer. Pokemon Masters was the one where it's like teams of 2 fighting.
So many options.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of characters. I think Pokemon Masters in particular might be trying to push away from having to animate and draw as many new Pokemon and instead animating and drawing more characters. It's a 3 versus 3 format, with each character I think only having one Pokemon. It's trying to do like a co-op thing. It would probably save them a lot of effort in a sneaky way if they could de-emphasize the Pokemon in Pokemon. I don't know how far you can get away with that, but but there is certainly something to be said around that idea, because if you're drawing incidental characters, background characters, if those characters have already been drawn for the anime TV series, you take one of those background characters, you change the hair a little bit, you change the outfit, then you've got a new character very quickly. But if you're drawing Pikachu, you've got to do a pretty big difference to change Pikachu into Raichu. That's not a simplistic thing, particularly since all the Pokemon look the same, so it feels like every Pikachu is Ash's Pikachu. And there are less people who have been specifically educated and have experience in drawing Pokemon than there are people in animes that just know how to draw people. So But you can only get so far with that. I would also suspect the Pokemon Masters is an effort to make just yet another smartphone game and change up the gameplay style, so it probably steals some ideas from some other game that's somewhat popular. Same way that Pokemon Go really is not like any Pokemon game that has come out before then. It's just stealing the Ingress concept and putting Pokemon on it. This guy somehow gonna actually survive this? Nope. Win streak bonus. Well, since we're winning, let's not lose the win streak. And let's go ahead and play with the Paladin. I don't want to play with the Warrior, that certainly wouldn't work well. TechRaptor has an article here, Etherborn review. Etherborn was the game we looked at earlier, so we can see what their review is on the game, whether they think it's good or not. They gave it a 6.0 good. Etherborn has all the good ideas for a clever puzzle game, then it ends after only 4 levels, never explaining its mechanics in a way that makes them stand out. Pros, smart mechanics, cool level gimmicks. Cons, doesn't expand on the mechanics and is way too short. I think that's enough of a review from one person or one website that I trust. Like, if somebody's going to tell me it has only 4 levels, that's a factual statement that one cannot really ignore. So I'm actually going to go back, if I can find it, and remove it from consideration just as it is, because it looked visually interesting. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and close that tab on that review alone. I've seen other games certainly end up like that, where not much advertisement or talking about it, and then it comes out and you realize that it's really short, and that's the reason why nobody bothered to advertise it, because it's obviously an unfinished game. Next we have a game on Steam here called Golf Defied. We've seen a lot of golf games like this on Steam, although it's been almost a year or two since I last saw a significant number of people put out golf games. These are kind of low effort, but not as low effort as some other things. And this one in particular looks like it's polished in a certain way. Let's see.
Converting stored energy.
Move quickly.
In turn. So Golf Defied looks interesting enough to be on the follow list. Discounted to $3.19, so it's a game that could be maybe a little short. Bunch of languages support. Of course, this could also be a case of something that's not even worth the $3, but I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing some real effort here, even for a small game. So I'm going to put that on the follow list. Next we have a game on Steam called Title Tribe, which looks like it's a god simulator style game. But looking at the screenshots down here that aren't loading, it seems like it's very low on its color palette. You've got greens and browns, and that's about it. And it's visually ugly because of that. Seems like you're just slightly changing the terrain, and that's how you influence the people. $13.49 discounted, English only. 25 achievements, makes it feel like it's an achievement game. Yeah, I see nothing here of interest at all. Alright, now this.
Move quickly.
There we go. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Daemon Ex Machina, third trailer, due out for the Switch September 13th. This is a mech game from Marvelous, it seems. Alright, if this actually comes to the West, I might be willing to give it a try. It looks slightly interesting. But it would also have to come out to the West on PC, and that's not what I'm seeing here. I'm not even seeing confirmation as it's coming out to the West on Switch. Let's hit this. And hit that. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Legendary Assassin Kal, K-A-L. This looks like it's a low-effort asset flip platforming game. Yeah, this is not something that the camera is way too far zoomed out, and the low polygon look does not match the style of gameplay that I'm assuming this is. So yeah, this just does not look like this is a well-designed or well-thought-out concept. Does the guy have no hands? Is that why there's a blade in his mouth? $2.99 discounted, English and Chinese. This is probably based on some Chinese story, but again, low-effort Chinese games. They're getting better, I will say. They seem to be getting better in their quality, but there's still a lot of bad ones coming out. Apparently we have an adult game here that was called Mola Mola Megan that you have to log into. Since I'm not going to go through the effort of logging into it, I can only assume that that is an adult game, which resets the clock, I guess, for adult games, sex games, lewd games being allowed on Steam. Which, okay, yeah. I still think they're moderately open and welcoming to most games. We haven't seen a lot getting rejected. Next we have a game on Steam here, Alex Hunter Lord of the Mind. I've heard of this Alex Hunter series. It's like, I think, either a hidden object game or a point and click adventure game. And I think it's a hidden object game. Yeah, it's a hidden object game because it's bundled with hidden object games. Close enough, at least. So this is discounted to $5.59. That's not a bad price, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Alex Hunter series is actually a pretty good series of hidden object games. It's just not something I want to play. Just any percentage of a game being a hidden object game is too much. Moving on. Still got tons of games. I did try to curate what was left over after Wednesday, but that didn't really happen too much. I also, I believe, re-rolled the Challenge a Friend on the Asian account. That would have been 80 gold, but I re-rolled it to a 60 gold because I was just not confident that in the amount of time I wanted to spend, I was going to successfully have anybody actually accept my Challenge a Friend on the Asian account. We've got a game on Steam here called Ultra Tank. It's a infinite runner game. It's got a little bit of polish in the fact that the camera is spinning to an angle, but that's kind of it. Everything else looks like asset flips and doesn't look like an interesting or fun game. 59 cents discounted, English only. That's definitely not something that's gonna make it to the end. Win streak bonus. Yeah, it'd be nice if we got up a little bit more in rank. If we can get everybody up to 15 on 3 accounts and stay around 15 or make more progress towards higher accounts, that would be nice. Next we have a game on Steam here called Red Horizon. It looks like it's a fly around, shoot things, asteroid space game. Yeah, nothing interesting about that. 89 cents discounted, English only.
Let the hunt begin. I will fight with honor.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Tokimiki Memorial Girls Side 4th Heart official title announced. Inori Himori introduced. So this is a visual novel, I would assume. And they're introducing characters, yeah. So I assume this is like a young maiden's visual novel that's going to be coming out at some point. Next we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian characters and then called Watch, which looks like it might be some interesting point and click adventure game, maybe. But are you just watching people on cameras, through cameras? Seems like the art style changes quite a lot. And the screenshots don't seem like they really are of any actual gameplay. It's early access, $9.29, English and Chinese. I don't have enough confidence in this game to... I'll watch this trailer, but I really don't have enough confidence in what this is. It looks like actually it's a Fez game. It's a 3D environment where you're spinning the world around like the game Fez. Which, somebody stealing the idea of Fez and doing more with it is not a terrible thought. But I kind of can't really trust... I really can't trust a Asian developer to be the developer that does that.
Converting stored energy.
Let's go!
It's all done.
End the turn. I guess I'll put Watch on the follow list. It might be something here. Doesn't look like it's an achievement game. It has only 7 achievements, so I'll give it a chance. We'll see what the English reviewers have to say about the game. Let's see. See, Gamatsu has an article here. The Vasara collection launches November 24th in Japan. Physical edition planned for the PS4. Never heard of Vasara, so I don't know what this is. Looks like it's a sword fighting game. Apparently it's on Steam. So let's go to the Steam page. Vasara collection is coming soon to Steam. Looks like a shoot 'em up game. Seems like a shoot 'em up game with ninjas. Interesting. Although I'm not a fan of shoot 'em up games, so actually it's not that interesting, and actually I'm not going to put it on the follow list. But it's a weird combination, is what I meant to say, I guess. I don't think you can or really should mix samurai sword swingers.
Let's go!
Next we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian characters. It's called Jang Hu Record of Another World. And it looks like it is a simplistic, low effort RPG. Maybe made with RPG Maker, maybe not. Early access, English not supported, $9.99, Chinese only. Alright. So, that's of course not making it.
Well fought. I concede.
Are we getting enough victories here? I kind of don't want to lose the win streak bonus, but I feel like I could probably keep on playing for several more games. Gamatsu has an article, The Alliance Alive HD Remaster Snow Realm and Crystal Realm screenshots. So, they've got a screenshot to show off. The Alliance Alive is coming out for PS4, Switch, PC on October 8th and October 10th in Japan and October 11th in Europe. This was a weird game that was coming out in the West before it was coming out before the rest of the world. It was coming out to the West before it came out to Japan, which usually it's the exact opposite situation. Yeah, I've mostly spent this entire week not talking too much, and still my voice is so worn out. Like, I really would have to take 2 or 3 months of having my jaw wired shut or something before I think I could recover any damage. Maybe the true secret here is there's no way to recover from the damage I've done to my voice. I've just worn it out, and that's that. And I'm maybe not treating it as well as I should. I drink a lot of water, and I eat a lot of cough drops, menthol cough drops type things. But that's not enough, obviously. Next we have a game on Steam here called Detective Girl in the Steam City. Now this looks like it is a RPG Maker game, but it's tagged sexual content and it's very positive. So I assume this is an RPG Maker game with some low effort sexual content in it. $11.99 discounted, English and Chinese. I don't think that there's a game here that I really want to play, though. So that's not going to make it to the follow list.
Let me think.
If you're going to make an adult game, it's going to have to be real high quality adult games. Right. This. Gamatsu has an article, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Last Survivor has been delayed to winter in Japan. So, talking about video game weird fashion, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has that quite a bit.
How much is this worth to you?
I tried to fast forward through one of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series on Netflix, and I really could not get through it. It did not interest me at all. It's not my style of show.
Converting stored energy.
There we go. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, comedy action game roguelike hero announced for PS4, Switch, and PC. Okay. So, what is this? That doesn't particularly look like it's a roguelike game. But maybe it is. Maybe it's a fighting game. Yeah, this looks more like a boss rush fight and beat 'em up game than a roguelike, but maybe it plays like a roguelike. There's something interesting in the visuals and the look of it. It looks a little bit like Fury. Play as a walk-on actor and fight through various action movie sets. Well, that's what... Wasn't that what Beautiful Joe was? So this is like a spiritual successor stealing the idea of Beautiful Joe? Interesting. But whatever. It's an easy way to change the scenes and do a lot of different things. Allergies right now might be horrible in the middle of summer in the heat.
So many options.
CheckRaptor has an article. Play NYC partners with Games for Change, bringing Grist, Nintendo Labo, and 8 more games to the show floor. Nintendo Labo. Play NYC, I think, is pretty much just a showcase, a museum piece, for lack of a better term. I don't think it's any bigger of an organization or anything that does anything bigger.
For justice.
Like, if you are insane, you can now connect to your accounts, your Epic account in Fortnite, and watch live streams for a chance to win in-game rewards. That being said, connecting your accounts also may potentially lose all your purchases from Fortnite, so until the Epic Store is better, I would probably suggest not connecting your account or doing anything with Epic. And I've heard rumor that even Fortnite now is not the big thing. Mario Maker might have finally surpassed it as the next big thing for kids. It would make sense that as a lot of people in the United States and around the world are in summer out of school, that they would have moved over to another game during that break time. So yeah, that might be the case, or might not. Fortnite may still remain king. Alright, how do I want to handle this? We've got a win streak. We could stick on this win streak forever. Let's move over to the Asian account, because I really don't want to play a lot of off-screen Hearthstone. We've got a game here called Neverland Treasure. This is a Candy Crush Match 3 game. One assumes that it has something to do with Peter Pan and Neverland. Here you have a generic Peter Pan character. Let's see. $2.54 for 250 level single player. Doesn't look like there's any in-app purchases or anything, so discounted to $2.54. That's not terrible. If you really had to play, that's a weird looking Tinkerbell though. If you really had to play something like that, like Candy Crush, this might be a good offer. On the other hand, if you're a normal person and you have no burning desire to play Candy Crush, then you're much better off. So if I can play Paladin, I can get 2 of these done, and then I would just have to play Priest. Let's make sure we've got the Tavern Brawl done. We got everything done early. We'll get back to doing 1 Tavern Brawl per day. And so we come over here. We're still playing Paladin, we're just playing the Asian Paladin account. now. Let's see. Let me make sure that this game that's tagged nudity and sexual content is YouTube friendly. I'm gonna say no to that. So there's a game that came out called Otaku Puzzle on Steam. It came out July 19th. It's 59 cents discounted. Says it has full audio for English, Chinese, French, and Italian. I don't believe any of that's true. And it's full of a variety of different anime girls that look like they might be all from the same artist. Maybe they license these up pictures, maybe they don't. It's just a simplistic slide puzzle game. And again, I must mention, do not ever fall for this. Do not pay money for these low effort games. Even if you are looking for an adult content, you can get better adult content for free or online. Like Pornhub does exist, or you can get better adult games in general that actually have gameplay that's worth playing. Next, we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters. Seems like this might be just a demo or an asset flip of a character wandering around an area. Why is there a hallway that goes directly to a bedroom? That doesn't make sense. You can see that this is negative to start with. So this doesn't feel like there's a real game here. And it doesn't seem like you do anything. That feels like a gameplay. English is not supported at $7.14. It's Chinese only. So even the Chinese market of game players are not enjoying this. Yeah, this looks like a demo, not a not a finished product. Now, a game like that, if you had wrapped around a horror aesthetic and made it dark and scary and stretched it out so it seemed like it was a full game, I think a lot more people would have fallen for something like that and potentially bought it. But the fact that it was bright, the fact that it seemed like you were just living the life of a kid, doesn't make sense. It seemed like it had a lot of, like, 6 different hunger bars, for lack of a better term, which would be annoying to say the least. The next game we have on Steam is called Pixel Caveman. It looks like garbage. MS Paint level graphics. It's early access for $4.24 discounted, English only. And I believe that says 95 achievements, so clearly it's an achievement game. That's not making it to the list. Still have quite a lot of games to cover. Let's see. Do I want to play this first?
For justice.
Maybe. I want to see if I can get as many magnetic characters in the hands before I start playing this.
Follow the rules.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Coloc, C-O-L-L-O-C. It says it's a puzzle game. There is a level of artisticness to the design, but it has 60 levels, and what I can't really figure out what the game is. You merge characters to solve the puzzles in certain ways. So it's kind of like a box pushing puzzle game. It's $3.59 discounted. I think that's a little too expensive. English, Japanese, Chinese. Well, it's a puzzle game, and I'll be a little generous and put this on the follow list. If people really do love the puzzles in it, there's a chance there. Not a great chance, but a chance.
Converting stored energy.
Protocol 7 engaged.
So, yeah, I'll be generous. Gamatsu has an article, Project Sakura Wars, first battle gameplay and new information. Live stream is set for July 25th. So, announcement for an announcement. I just lost one of my cards. But whatever. That won't hurt me. Let's see.
Access denied. Reporting for duty. For justice.
Here we go. Should be pretty good. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Nightmare Game. It says it's an RPG. I'm not sure I particularly like this art style. It seems like somebody doesn't know how to draw people. They have these like weirdly flat heads and very large large heads compared to long skinny bodies. I don't know if that's something I'd really want to stare at. Seems like it's some kind of visual novel slash RPG type story. It's $2.99 discounted. English, Japanese, Chinese, 23 achievements. It just doesn't look quality enough. Well, it doesn't look good enough.
Let me think.
So, yeah. The story here seems like you stay in a warehouse, you get them for 24 hours, you get $1 million bonus, 8 people. I assume it's eventually breaks down to a case of you have to murder the other people. There we go. Yeah. So that same concept with better animation would interest me, certainly. But it would have to be visually appealing. Same is true for this game, Founder's Fortune, which looks like a building simulator type game. It looks like it's just a low effort clone of that Tavern Simulator game. It's early access for $18 even with no discount. What's funny is Tavern Simulator really didn't even succeed, and it was a very bad idea to try and copy that, because that game was pretty weird and niche in the first place. It wasn't going to be a long list of Tavern Simulator games out there to follow up on that. Tech Raptor has a article, Unleash Your Inner Ron Swanson. That's a character from a TV show known for his woodworking. I believe the actor is known for his woodworking.
I will fight with honor.
But in the Woodworker Simulator pre-alpha for free, so here you can see a screenshot where you're using a plane and you use WASD and the angle and the mouse button to plane the wood. And then there's some other things you can do. You can saw, drill, chisel, plane, lathe, sand, and glue, but not paint, oddly. Because I would have thought it would have been painting or polishing, because there's this like wooden dinosaur. I talked about this game, that there might be something to this for people who like woodworking and can't do it all the time. Or perhaps people who did woodworking and now they're old and they have arthritis or something. You do polish with wood oil. Interesting. I was trying to figure out what kind of oil they use to polish wooden shoes in Holland. I assume it's some kind of bee-based oil or fish-based oil, like honey, but I couldn't find anything on a quick Google But yeah, that has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, I think Woodwork Simulator, if it, like a lot of these simulators, if it turns into a real game or something that's actually fun to play, even if it's not so much a game and just more of a simulator, then it will have some appeal. If it's just like Goat Simulator, where it's just jokes, or if it's not detailed enough, then people will forget about it rather quickly. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Nowhere Profit, which looks like it's a card-based characters placed on kind of a grid system, a deck building card game. It looks interesting. It's rated positively already. It's discounted to $22.49, so the price is a little high, particularly when there's no multiplayer. Supports a whole bunch of languages. I've heard some people talk about this or hype it up and advertise it a little bit. So, although it's not in early access or anything, so it really didn't get that much advertisement. I'll put this on the follow list and give it a chance.
Reporting for duty.
Question when playing the Paladin here is how many turns can I end before I start putting myself in actual danger of losing? Only a couple, probably. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Railroad VR, all one word. It's an on-rail shooter that doesn't look very well visually polished. This is something that might work really well in VR. I've often suspected that on-rail shooters are the way to go, but it needs to be a lot better looking than this. This looks terrible, like an early 90s game. $2.24 discounted is way too cheap for a VR game. English only with 3 achievements. It's probably super short at that rate. 3 achievements to beat 3 levels, I would assume. Well, this is probably the last turn I should end. I need to play something next turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called Telefrag VR. This visually looks a lot more interesting. It is questionable how you're playing this and moving in VR, particularly not getting motion sick while you're moving and playing like this in VR, but I'm willing to give this one a follow just to see the responses to it. It's discounted to $22.49, which is kind of high for a VR game, but not extremely high, and it supports a bunch of languages. I'm going to put that on the follow list because I imagine it's either going to be this makes me super motion sick, or this game doesn't have enough online multiplayer people because nobody has VR headsets, or something along those lines.
Converting stored energy. Job done.
Or it is also possible, I guess, people actually like the game and it plays perfectly fine. Next, we have a game on Steam called Oceanum Mortis, which looks like it's a pixel graphics old game. Doesn't look like it's in widescreen. Looks like an RPG Maker game. Discounted to 79 cents. English only. Yep, another RPG Maker game. Not worth mentioning. And then Gamasutra has our next big bit of news. And after 28 years, the co-founder of Blizzard, Frank Pierce, is leaving Blizzard. Which, if that doesn't tell you that Blizzard is not going to make it for the... it's not going to be in good shape at the very least in the next couple of months and years, I don't know what would give you that message. Because that's obviously what's going on here. Blizzard is imploding because Activision is not supporting it at all, and people are leaving left and right. The other co-founder from Blizzard had already left, or the other 2 co-founders, Michael Morhaime and Alan Adham, both departed at had already left. Morhaime left just last year. Adham resigned in 2014 and returned in 2016. So, yeah. Blizzard's not in good shape, and it's really not. There's no great reason for that to be the case, but somehow that is the case. Really, Blizzard should be doing a lot better than it is. I mean, it still has Overwatch, and Overwatch is still a success, and it has World of Warcraft, that's a success. But I think there's a chance over time we'll see Activision and Blizzard split, and the remnants of Activision and Blizzard separated might be better off than the remnants of Activision and Blizzard together. Next we have a game on Steam called Voxel MRT, which looks like it's just a Minecraft clone. Yeah, I see nothing here of interest. Early access, $14.99. Nowadays, early access for a game that's a clone really is just a kiss of death at the beginning. Like, why would you know exactly what you're going to add to this game because it's just ripping off an already existing game.
For justice.
So why not release the game when it's actually in some kind of finished state? Like, early access does not get you any grace anymore. Next we have a game on Steam here called Moon Tycoon. This came out October 1st, 2001, so this is just a release of an old game. But I've never heard of Moon Tycoon, so I don't think I'd want to play it. $9.59 discounted. It's a little expensive for an old game, English only. We haven't been seeing a lot of old games getting released on Steam. I'm not sure how many old games still exist that can be played on a modern PC, could come to PC Steam, because there's just that factor of a lot of the old games not running well. I saw somebody playing Glover on the PC version of Glover that I'd never even heard of, and they had to basically spend $150 to buy an old PC
I wonder what this does.
to get it to run, an old Windows 98 PC. Yep. So much for getting a win streak. We still have 17 Paladin cards to play though. TickRaptor has an article, Humble Happy Hour 719. Humble reveals partnership with upcoming indie games. Apparently Humble Happy Hour, it was like a Nintendo Direct type thing. So they're working with a game I guess called Project Wingman that's being kickstarted. Flynn, the Son of Crimson, that's being kickstarted. Let's actually see what this game is. Yeah, it looks like it's a platforming game. Yeah, that looks cool. Pop-up Dungeon pre-alpha. This looks like this might be a card-based style game. Although, seems like it's both real-time and card-based. Weirdly. And maybe you customize the cards yourself. That would be an interesting idea. Where if you were just given a certain amount of points to make your own characters and your own people. That is a really interesting idea. Forager, I don't think I wanted to ever play Forager because it was too varied in its gameplay. So yeah, Humble Bundle trying to publish more games. Or the Humble Store, trying to be more of a game publisher. which, alright. Like, being a game publisher's an interesting path, certainly. Go down.
Stored energy.
TechRaptor has another article here. Fate Tactics is being published by Humble. This is another placement RPG games. Doesn't look as nicely animated as the previous, as Disgaea or the previous game. There was a location. I can't accidentally here, like, I don't want to accidentally cause myself to get into a field of how do I say this? Of playing a bunch of RPG placement games when there are probably some other RPG games I should be playing first, or playing a ton of RPG strategy placement games when there's other things that I should be playing.
Converting stored energy. Photonic perks.
TechRaptor has another article. There was several announcements. New Void Bastards DLC launches in August for $5. A lot of people liked that game. I won't say the name a second time. But it was kind of a flash in the pan roguelike style game. I may get around to playing it, although it might not be YouTube friendly. So, might be some weirdness in that too.
Photonic perks.
That really is a game that I think I could probably wait till the Game of the Year version comes out. Next we have a game on Steam here called Story of One Night. This looks like a asset flip horror game if I was to guess. Flashing lights and a lot of dark screenshot syndrome. Maybe there's something more to it, but I don't think so. They went $3.99. It's English and Russian. And let's see, can we look at the screenshots? What's being shown is not impressive enough, so I'm gonna not put it on the follow list. Like, they just didn't put enough of a best foot forward to make me interested in playing that game. This and this.
Photonic perks.
Gamatsu has an article here. Tekken 7 sales top 4 million. That feels like that took Tekken longer than it should have. Launched worldwide on June 2017. It reported to be over 3 million in October of 2018. So yeah, it's slowly chugging along, but certainly not really a milestone to celebrate at this point. I think you would just sneak that out in a sales report, not make a big deal out of it. Alright. Gonna kill this guy for sure. And then kill that guy for sure.
Reporting for duty.
We'll just play defensively here. Gamma Sutra has an article. Sega has ended its publishing partnership with narrative studio Interior Nights. Sega scrapped its publishing deal with Interior Night, the narrative studio founded by former Quantic Dream and Sony Entertainment Europe designer Carolyn Markle back in 2017. Did they ever make a game, Interactive Interior Night, or is the game they're developing stuck in development hell? I imagine it's stuck in development hell. The article says, it seems the two companies parted on good terms, and the experience hasn't quashed Sega's resolve to bring more narrative-driven titles into its portfolio. Sega and narrative games certainly have not been a thing in the past, to my knowledge, so I don't know what would really happen there. I don't think I can really do much. So I'm gonna do this and then just end the turn and see what they want to do. No real details coming out from that departure right now. We might get some leaks and more information later.
Arena's full.
I'll be your field guide.
Let's see.
Access denied.
And that. In the turn. Gamma Sutra has some more information about the two devs behind the original Witcher game. Their new studio is called Different Tales. I'm not sure that there's really anything else to take from that. The game Walkabout is scheduled to launch for PC, Mac, and iOS August 28th. I guess iOS means cell phone still. So it's pretty much a cell phone game. I think it's being targeted as a cell phone game. It looks like a cell phone game for sure.
Reporting for duty.
Just
For justice.
keep on playing. Next, we have a game on Steam called From Head to Toe, which I assume it means I love you from head to toe. It seems like this is a kind of badly animated game, but by which I mean the actual motions are badly animated, but the drawing and the art style looks good. It's free. Interesting. And it's English only. So, this seems like this might have been a Game Jam game. If you're interested in From Head to Toe, it's free. Check it out now. It doesn't look like it's really a student project. Or anything. Short interactive story about winter existential guilt and your ex-classmates. Yeah. I don't see anything saying it's a student project or anything like that. And I need 4 more Paladin cards to be played. Next we have a game on Steam called Legend of Cinema, but misspelled wrong. Interesting. The art style here, while it's being blurred, doesn't look terrible. But the gameplay looks like it is just an RPG Maker game. They're like blurring their own game to hide the fact that it is just an RPG Maker game. It's not going to work with the screenshots, though. $8.49 discounted, English only. Yeah, not going to buy into that. Another RPG Maker game. Good news is we are closing to getting closer towards the end. It's not particularly close to the end of all the news, but like we still have a couple of daily quests to do too, so this is just going to be a really long Friday stream. TechRaptor has an article. QuakeCon teams up with charities to shoot down world problems. So they've the Year of Doom, DoomCon, worked together with. I guess they didn't actually rename it DoomCon. They teamed up with America's Red Cross, Dallas Pets Alive. I believe QuakeCon happens in Dallas, Texas. One Up on Cancer, Anime for Humanity, Gamers Outreach, and Stack Up. So, interesting, to say the least. QuakeCon, though, is always weird. They also have t-shirts for dogs and cats, which is interesting idea. QuakeCon, I think, is a little weird. I don't think it's a fan convention for people fans of Quake or Doom, or just fans of going to game conventions in general. Otherwise, it kind of makes very, very, very little sense. Yeah. I could easily see it being way better to go to a PAX South instead of going to QuakeCon and having a more varied selection of games and options and things that you would be focusing on, and probably better amount of people showing up, or maybe a higher quality of people depending on what you're looking for. Moving on, though, that's really just speculation. I haven't been to either PAX South or QuakeCon. We have a game here, Space Mercenary Shooter Episode 1. This looks like a asset flip first-person shooter that is selling itself episodically, which makes me immediately lose interest. It's discounted to $1.69, which is way too cheap. 10 achievements, which is a little high for such a cheap game. English only.
Let me think.
That's not going to make it to the list. Next, we have a game on Steam called Walk on the Ground Simulator, which clearly this is horrible graphics, total garbage, low effort game. $2.99, English only, 11 achievements. Yeah, that's definitely not making it to the far list. Question is, why did I not filter that one out? Must have not been doing a very good job at all.
Converting stored energy.
There we go. Next, we have a game on Steam called Secret City, the Human Threat Collector's Edition. This is a Big Fish game, hidden object game. It's been a while since we've seen Big Fish games put out a hidden object game. It's $12.59 discounted, English only. They're sticking, it seems, to $12.59 now for their collector's editions, which really aren't much of collector's editions, as far as I can tell. Next, we have a game on Steam called Infinity Attackers. This is rather sharp images for an Asteroids clone, but beyond the shapes being sharp, it's really low effort, really boring looking gameplay. $3.49 discounted, English only. There is quite a lot of games that are just English only.
Job's done.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Cafe Crush. It's black bars on the side. It's a dating minigame visual novel game, so it's probably a little older. It's not tagged with any sexual content and nudity, so either this has none of that or it's been censored.
Well,
I kind of like the art style. it seems like it's kind of a cute romance style game. So at $4.99 and being English full audio, which is interesting, certainly. This might be a little bit closer to more of a family-friendly honey pop, and so I'm going to put it on the fall list and see what the reception is for it. Now, very possibly the reception will be very bad, or there will be some other elements that that reveals the game isn't that good, but it's another anime game that came out with no problems, or seemingly no problems, on Steam. We already talked about that article, we don't need to talk about it a second time. Next we have a game on Steam here called the Doulos Studio, and this seems like this is a Bible quiz game, but to me it looks like it is just an extremely low effort game. $2.99, no discount, English only, and then 9 achievements. Yeah, I don't see a lot of entertainment value in Bible quizzes, and you would have to do something special with it visually and in the way you interact for that to make sense. Next we have a game on Steam called Element Z, which looks like it's a point-and-click adventure game, although the frame rate doesn't look particularly good. Well, I am always a sucker for a point-and-click adventure game, so I'll put this on the fall list, but I suspect heavily that it runs at like 5 frames per second. $8.99 discounted, English with full audio. I'd question that too, whether it is a full talkie game, since we're seeing text in the game, and that's a pretty low effort game. I'm gonna give it a follow just because it's a point and click, but almost certainly it will get rejected in the long run. Gematsu has an article. Sumo Digital here is working with 2K Games on an unannounced project, which is interesting. So the developer of Team Sonic Racers is working with 2K Games to probably make a racing game, if I was to guess. No real details beyond that. I could totally see that being the case, though, is a racing game coming out, something maybe a competitor to Mario Kart that isn't based on the Sonic characters. But I don't know what 2K Games could have other than Borderlands. Can you make a Borderlands racing game like Mario Kart? I guess you could. Like, that is possible. Will it sell? I don't know. Like, that would be a little crazy. Particularly when you realize that Borderlands 1 and 2 had races in it, had cars in it. So unless Borderlands 3 specifically doesn't have races and cars in it, it would be almost, it would feel a lot like they were removing content from Borderlands 3 and selling it as a separate game. So there's definitely a risk there if they're going to make a Borderlands racing game. And if it's not a Borderlands thing and it's some other 2K property, like a 2K Sports or something, I mean, I wouldn't really know what it is at that point. Let's see.
Reporting for duty. To battle!
Next we have a game on Steam here called Project VR Wild Hunt. It's a VR hunting game. It doesn't look visually polished enough, frankly, but I could see the appeal if you wanted to hunt and you didn't want to to actually hurt any animals. I could see the appeal. This is early access, $5.99 discounted, English full audio. I'll put this on the follow list and we'll see what shape it is when it comes out of early access. I think that's fair enough.
Access denied.
This,
Converting stored energy.
this, and this.
Reporting for duty.
Let's go!
To battle.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Jim's Moving Out, which says it's a puzzle platformer puzzle game. I don't know what this is. It seems like you're pushing boxes. It seems like this is just a weird connection of things. $13.49 discounted. English full audio, it claims. I don't see a game here worth playing. I see just a random assortment of items and some weirdness, to say the least.
To battle. To battle. To battle.
So yeah, I'm not going to put that on the fall list. If I can't even figure it out, why go any further? Next, we have a game on Steam called Hack.88, which I like this character design. Like, it's kind of a cool idea, but then looking at this game, looks to be like it's just a very simplistic, basic game that I don't really want to play. I guess this is a girl. Yeah, I said guy without even thinking about it. 20% for $3.99, English only, 2 achievements. Just doesn't look like a game that's interesting, frankly.
I wonder.
Let's see.
Follow the rules. To battle. To battle. Job's done.
And the turn there. Gamma Sutra, being owned by Informa, the same company that runs GDC, has an article. Please welcome 6 new members to the advisory board of GDC 2020. Let's see if there's a list here. The people added to the boards worked on games including Destiny 2, Fantastic Contraption, Doom 2016, Marvel Spider-Man, Fortnite, Firewatch, and many more. I'm a little scared of anybody from Firewatch joining the game. The names of the people added to the board are Kimberly Vol, or Volley, M.E. Chung, Sean Vanneman, like he worked at Telltale on The Walking Dead and Puzzle Agent 2. I guess I could list what each of these people do. Seems like we're gonna probably have enough time for that anyways.
Converting stored energy.
Reporting for duty.
Alright, so Kimberly Vol, she worked at Riot on Fantastic Contraption and Rockets, a game I've never heard of. Imi Chung, he worked on Halo 4, Bioshock, and Tomb Raider, the mid-2000s versions. Sean Vanneman did the Walking Dead games at Telltale and Puzzle Agent 2. He also co-founded Campo Santo, now part of Valve, the developer of Firewatch.
Let me
So Sean Vanneman may have been the person specifically that threatened the DMCA against PewDiePie. I would have to probably do some research to know if it is him or if it was the other guy. Either way, he clearly has some free time at Valve, as most employees of Valve do, to join the GDC board. Next person added is Grant Schonkwiller. I guess that's how you pronounce that name. Let's see. He previously worked at Epic Games on Fortnite and id Software on the Doom reboot. So another person left id Software recently. Elaine Ruskin. She worked on Marvel's Spider-Man. She also worked at Valve for Portal 2 and Dota, Naughty Dog for Jack 3, and Ion Storm for Deus Ex Invisible War. And then the last person added to the board, the advisory board, is Yves Cravache, and they worked in general running conventions for like Penny Arcade Expo and things like that, but didn't particularly work on any actual video games, as far as I can tell.
Reporting for duty.
This is gonna drive me crazy. I'm still very 50-50 on GDC, whether it's a convention that actually helps or hurts the video game industry or does anything for the video game industry. It kind of is just always this circle jerk get together of established game developers being friendly with each other. And if you were a kid in college hoping to be a video game programmer, maybe you could show up and make some friends and rub some elbows, but maybe not, because they're so cronyistic in the video game industry that they simply might just shun newcomers. Next we have a game on Steam here called Forest Mage. This looks like it's just an asset flip forest where you're running around, and there's, I think it's so dark I can't even tell. It looks like there might be this black creature flying in front of you, or this might just be a random assortment of garbage. It's 99 cents, no discount, English only. See nothing interesting about the game. Alright. This guy has figured it out how to screw me over, so
Reporting for duty.
next we have a game called Tranquility Base Mining Colony, the Moon Explorer version. This looks like a low effort asset flip game. Seems like you're really just running around collecting coins like Pac-Man or something. I said I curated these video games and looked at some of them and closed some tabs, but really I'm not sure I did. This game is $9.99, English only. It's total garbage. I'm kind of questioning whether I actually did curate anything, because I've seen just a significant amount of bad games today. Still trying to win a Paladin games, but let's switch over to a Priest Victory just to keep things interested, and we'll just play casual while we're at it. We only have a few more things to talk about, and then I want to just end the stream because it's been going long. Gamatsu has an article, Sega ages columns 2, The Voyage Through Time, apparently is coming out in Japan on the Nintendo eShop.
The light shall
I have
bring
no idea when Columns 2 originally released, but it probably is a very old Sega Genesis game if I was to guess. It looks like an old console game, and looks a lot like Tetris, for lack of a better term. Tetris, I guess, is the best term. Let's see, what's the copyright on Columns 1? 1990? Yep. So, not anything super interesting here about Columns 2, and we'll have to wait and see if there's anything more to say about that, if it's coming to the West. That's the thing I'm looking for. Gamatsu has an article, the Pro Yaku Spirits 2019 free update to implement the 2020 season data. This is the Japanese baseball game. So, I don't think these games ever come to the West anyways. So, that's the thing. It's nice to see games getting supported with new season player data, or yeah, character roster data. But that typically happens in sports games. Gamatsu has an article here. Tom Create announces Shinobi Spirits S, Legend of Heroes for Switch and PC. What kind of game is this though? Looks like it's a beat 'em up platformer game. Might be something here if it comes to the West. Maybe, maybe not. This could be just a lot of repetition and some weird looking animal style characters. I've never even heard of Tom Create though, so if that is a developer or publisher, it's also something I've never heard of.
Right away.
Next we have a game on Steam here called Seed Hunter, and then a bunch of Asian characters. This looks like this is a slightly well animated and designed platforming, maybe Metroidvania style game. I want to give this a chance, even though I suspect this is a Chinese game, and there is a chance that it's not that good. There's a lot of visuals here that sell this game very well. It's early access, $8.09, and English and Chinese full audio, it says. Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a chance. Let's see.
I must consider.
Heal this. And hold on to
Right
that.
away.
And then end the turn there. Next we have a game on Steam here called Polar Jump, which seems to be another one of these games where it's a parkour game that just randomly generates. And I don't know how so many people can make these low effort games that have parkour movement in them. It must just be like some kind of free or very cheap tech demo that's just getting reskinned over and over again. When I think Polar Jump, I would think skiing, and you're definitely not seeing skiing here. It's just $2.99, English only. Yep, that's not making it to the follow list. You need to play this, and then silence him.
You win this.
Alright, well, talk about a free victory. I'll take it. I will take a free victory. Maybe I was playing too slow. Probably, but whatever. Next we have a game on Steam here called Gabuchi, which looks like it's block destroying puzzle kind of game where you switch colors. Let's see, $6.39.
Uther versus Rexar.
Is there more of a game here? Because really that would just be manipulating yourself to get up to certain areas, and I don't think that's enough of a game. Yeah. I don't think there's enough detail here. $6.39 discount is way too expensive for what I'm saying, and a bunch of language support is nice, but doesn't really fix that main problem. Next we have a game on Steam called Super Life RPG, which seems to be a RPG life simulator game. But also kind of seems like it's just a low effort voxel based game. Yeah, it seems too random and too varied about the activities that you would do. If you were going to do a life simulator thing, I think you'd do something like Yakuza, where you're living somebody's life, but it's in the thread of a interesting story that's going to also occur. So yeah, Super Life RPG, not making it to the fall list. Next we have a Gematsu article, Date a Live Rin Dystopia delayed to 2020 in Japan. So I believe this is a visual novel. Yeah, standard Japanese delay things. I would not be surprised because of the KyoAni terrorist attack, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a lot of delays of a lot of things, including games, just as an excuse. But who knows? Next we have a game, Escape Lala, retro point-and-click adventure. I believe the first game in this series came out just about a month ago and looked like garbage, and now they've got a sequel and it still looks exactly the same. Yeah, I'm never going to be sold on playing a retro point-and-click adventure that comes out in modern time and is just trying to sell itself on retro visual animations. It's $4.24 discounted, which is way too expensive. It has 41 achievements. It's English only, with no talking, which is what I'd want to see in any VR game, or not VR game, but I'd want to see it in any point-and-click adventure game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam, Ankh Guardian, Treasure of the Demon's Temple. This has a Egyptian art style, hieroglyphic art style, so there might be something to this. Now this almost certainly is either a Japanese or a Chinese game, but it's drawn nicely, but then the gameplay mechanics themselves may be a little too simplistic. It's $5.59 discounted. It's English and Japanese. And this is iffy. It's like there might be a game here, or this might be more of a demo or concept of a game that's poorly implemented. I would like to see more games where you play as Egyptian hieroglyphs, though, certainly. I'm going to put this on the follow list. It's also from Tom Create Co., so I should probably look and see how many games they have on Steam.
Let me think.
Just the previous game we talked about, and the game called Starship Avenger Operation Take Back Earth. So on Steam at least they only have 3 games. They might be a new company.
I wonder.
Let's see. Magnetic Rush. Just end the turn here. I've got to kill this guy. If I can't kill him quick, he's gonna he's gonna run me ragged. Right. So this,
Converting stored energy.
this,
Converting stored energy.
this.
Job's done.
Ah! It's like game over. I've lost. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. The virtual reality themed romance visual novel Aerial Life is coming to PS4 on October 24th in Japan. Also, the PS Vita. Crazy to announce a game and have a PS Vita coming out. It's being ported and published by Intergram. I've never heard of that. Virtual reality isekai and netherworld stories. Very popular in Japan. And visual novels, obviously very popular. We'll see if it comes over to the West. Right, can we do anything to kill this guy?
Let me think.
Job's done.
Nah, I've lost. Gamatsu has an article. Sky Children of Light for iOS is now available. Looks like an interesting game from the visuals. Unfortunately, it's not available on anything else, so maybe it'll get ported, or maybe it's not that good. It will launch at a later date for Android consoles and PC. So it's starting on iOS. It probably is a pretty simplistic fly-around game that doesn't require anything else. Alright. We need this.
Access denied.
And then we can kill that. He's just screwing with me.
Happy mates.
This guy is just screwing with me. Have just a few more things. We already talked about that. We have a game on Steam here called Master of the Forbidden Sea. It looks like MS Paint level graphics. $7.59 with a 5% discount. That's really expensive. They've made a fake NES poster. Interesting idea, certainly, but not gonna sell a game that looks this generic. This might be one of those games that actually turns out to be good and I just overlook it, but I'm not willing to put it on the follow list to even run that risk. So sadly I'm going to have to play off screen, I think, to get this last victory, but that's not a problem. We have about 5 more games to talk about, so let's just focus on this. We have a game called TKKG Die for Prague. This sounds like a German point-and-click adventure of some sort. It looks animated pretty well. Unfortunately, English is not supported. It's $9.99, and it is just German. Alright, well, you don't see a lot of German-only games on Steam, but I've seen a couple, and it's always a shame. It's not like it's particularly hard to translate German to English either. Like, every country around Germany, at least as their secondary language, speaks English, including Germany themselves. TechRaptor has a review here for Night Call Cabbie Simulator 2019. This is one of the games we looked at, I think, in the last stream. So, seems like there's another game where you play as a cabbie that was announced and hasn't come out yet. You can see this game is a 5.5 average. Night Call is a game filled with good ideas but terrible execution. Great characters and explorations are let down by superfluous mechanics and a lack of meaningful choices. Pros, great noir style, interesting characters, and interacting with passengers is fun. Cons, money and fuel management are more of a distraction. Your choices don't have an overall effect. Not many differences between the cases you take. Alright, so Night Call, not something that I think needs to be on the follow list, which maybe maybe I'll put it on the follow list anyways because we've got several people saying it's positive. So should I believe the mob or should I believe Tech Raptor? I guess I have to follow the mob rule here and put this on the follow list. $19.99 English and French. Maybe there's a point where Tech Raptor is wrong. And yeah, I feel like my taste is closer to a general gamer's review on Steam than it is any individual review sites. So I'm gonna trust the mob mentality. Gamatsu has an article, Not Tonight Take Back Control Edition is coming to the Switch in 2019. Not Tonight being a Brexit style dystopic futuristic world where you're like racially profiling people and letting them inside of a bar. I believe is what that game is. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Please the Gods, which is a turn-based adventure based around mythology. It looks a lot like Slay the Spire, but there might be something here. Really is just going to come down to if people want to play it or if it's actually well polished. This doesn't look terrible. It's $8.99. It's single player only, English only, with full audio. I'm gonna put that on the follow list, and that should put us to this game, which is actually a front page game called Gloomhaven. Front page on Steam's webpage. So I'm going to put this on the follow list. You can see it's mostly positive. It's early access. It's $24.99. It's single player only. I don't believe I can afford to buy the Humble Bundle that I wanted to buy, unfortunately. So if somebody buys the latest Humble Bundle and gets a code for Shanti, a duplicate code, and they direct message that to me on Twitter, I would very much appreciate it. That's a great way in which you could support me. Shanti is the main game I'm interested there on that bundle. The other games I certainly could probably take and probably don't have, but Shanti's the one that makes it worth it. Meanwhile, you would be donating your money to your charity of choice. Next we have a Chinese game here called Woozy Hero, basically doing a drunken fighting style in several events and fights. It's early access and English is not supported. It's $2.79. The idea of playing a co-op style character in a fighting game is a slightly interesting drunken hero style idea, but I think you would have to put a lot of effort and a little polish into that, and the gimmick would get old and tired pretty quickly, I think. So you probably wouldn't want to do that. So that brings us to the Humble Bundle store, and we have the Very Positive Bundle 3. Yeah, I think Rusty Lake Paradise I don't have, and The Strength 2. I may not have any of these games, but Shanti here is the main one. If somebody would gift me the Steam code for that, that'd be great. Great way to support my channel. So that's going to be it for this stream. We do have some new tweets, I guess I could look, but I don't think there's going to be any new news. Let's see. Bear with me while I'm coughing. Yeah. In the 3 to 4 hours we've streamed, yeah, one new game has come out, and that's about it. Yeah. Overwatch is getting some quick play queues. So, Overwatch roll queue is finally coming to quick play and competitive, whatever that means. But that's all that there is to say. There's no new news. So we had our standard Friday stream. It started late and nobody got on the chat or anything like that, which is the same as most Fridays. That's it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game or a gift card. Game off my wish list or a game you'd like me to cover. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.